heard it myself.
I did, and it doesn't make any sense to even think about
Okay, we are broadcasting, so whenever you're ready.
Alright, good to go. Everyone here, we're missing, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Ash Shake.
Here.
Sarah Cornelli. Here. Chelsea Campbell. Brian O'Connor.
Here.
Lisa Cunningham is absent. Bob Broadus.
Here.
Adam Haid.
Here.
Candace Whitehouse. Here. Ben Hemphill.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Excellent. Anyone have any issues with the agenda as written? And we have no public to make comments, so let's move on. I figured we'd start with the presentation, because that should be fairly quick I got some feedback from email, so I incorporated what I could and we can take a look at that. But yeah, I think we should do that first, just to get it out of the
It's
way.
down at the bottom.
Where is it?
Oh, actually you need to it's here, but you're gonna. It's down
it. No, to the left.
Yeah, right here. But then.
Yeah, but I was trying to find the screen share. Oh, here
There,
it is.
yeah.
Let's see, this one, right? Yes.
As long as you don't run them as a slideshow, it should be fine.
Let's see.
Let's see. Hopefully that's not the one that's the one.
Oh, that might be the.
Yeah.
That's not
Let's
the.
stop sharing. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
rather than minimize it, if you can shorten it.
Let's see.
I just share the monitor.
I'll stop sharing when we're here.
Weird. Okay. And then let's do a screen, window, or tab. Let's do this.
So that's Chrome.
Entire screen.
That's
Oh,
perfect.
That's Chrome.
But that's, as long as
No,
you
it's
don't
not.
switch to anything you don't want to switch to.
No, because it's hard to edit in when you're in the.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in Chrome, oh, sorry.
So
Yeah, no,
I
you definitely want to be in
do-
PowerPoint.
No, the screen window.
So if you just bring this one up and make it,
Here we go.
oh, there you go, now you got it, yep,
This one.
there we go, okay.
That'll just share PowerPoint.
Right, Hillary, you got it?
Ash, you said you got my comments?
Yes,
Okay,
I think, good job.
okay,
All right. So I figured, based on the discussion we had last time, it would probably be me and Brian doing the presenting, and everyone else would show up if possible, person or virtual. So we'll put our names as the presenters. And then per some comments, I added the full list of commission members. And then summary, just kind of listing all the articles just so we can hit the big, just so everyone knows what topics are covered.
hey Hillary, can you mute yourself?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, in the summary, just list of articles, preamble process, driving principles, and then
Isn't that more like an agenda
agenda,
of a presentation?
I guess. I usually call it a summary when I do it, because it summarizes what we're gonna go through.
It's called an agenda because it's an agenda of what we're gonna go through. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can talk about, but I was gonna stick the articles here, but since the names and all of that were still under consideration, we had talked about splitting out some other ones. I left it blank for now. And then preamble, I just thought we'd start with that just to give everyone an idea of like the mindset we approach this with. Rather than like, we don't have to read it out, or we could, but I just thought it would be
I think you
good to
should.
include.
I think you should. Like,
Yeah.
it's the only thing you read out, but
Yeah, just read it out.
you kind of honor it. Like, this is something that we all, well, we didn't all work on it, but we all think it really reflects what you're about to see here.
Yeah. So I thought that like it introduced the mindset, and that was my intent here with including it. And then process, it was just kind of to show people like how we approached it as far as like the actual mechanical aspects of going through and amending and things. Per some comments, I updated a couple of lines. Because we did do like legal, ideological, and feasibility, because we looked at all of those aspects of, you know, each provision essentially is like, is this legal? Is this feasible, how we wanna implement it? And do we actually wanna, hard code it into the charter versus leaving it up to ordinance and all of that? So we went through that process. And I also wanted to emphasize that we've made sure everyone has had a chance to weigh in and actually talk about every single provision, even when they're absent, like solicited feedback, asynchronously as well. And that we typically went for unanimity, but not always hit it. So the driving principles just it kind of summarizes what we approached through the preamble, like this is what we wanted to do as we hit every discussion point. And per a comment from Bob, I made the last bullet a little more positive rather than
Good catch.
yeah, it was a good catch. It was very well done. And then I split it out by consequential decisions just in various topics. This is what I kind of considered, so I'm open to suggestions on other things that I may have forgotten that you guys think are consequential and deserve to be highlighted when we present this. Town of Erie, I figured I would talk, because I've been talking a lot of it, so. And I think part of what I'm gonna do is take my speaking notes and attach them, like, there's a space where you can put your speaking notes on each slide. So I was gonna put that in, so that's the full package, so people know not just like the slides, but the background as well.
Something I didn't say, but I do like the fact that you're in a positive tone.
Yeah.
Your assumption is it'll pass.
Yeah.
So you're saying will instead of would.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it's nice.
I was trying to be optimistic there.
Yes.
And yeah, like the last bullet, we definitely talk through, like I would talk through the process we went and why we decided this specifically and why we decided against all the other options that are out there, just to kind of highlight it.
I think too on bullet point 3, it'll be worth making sure that you discuss that we went with districts for more representation and also discuss the difference and similarities of districts and wards potentially.
Yeah.
And also, the fact that the idea is to start with 3. And if the town later decides they want to go to more, they can. But you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear you say 4, I heard a different one, sorry.
It's because I cussed that one meeting.
No, I heard him say war, I'm like, what?
Oh.
War? No going to war.
Just canceled that.
Good.
I get the next one I moved on to was open space. And yeah, just I wanted to highlight that we decided on this based on that TNAC vote in the November election. Just it blew and I didn't think it would pass with that level, so I want to highlight that this is why we decided this is an important aspect for Erie, so we wanted to codify that uniqueness.
Is there any? That is a moment in time, a very recent moment in time, and what we're setting up is for a very long time. I know we all agree that open space is very important. It's not, that helps by a lot to prove the point that we wanna make, but I think there may be some other data points we could throw in.
Okay.
If you wanted to head off the potential argument, well, yeah, but that was only last year, we're not gonna value open space forever.
Okay.
And I'm probably just nitpicking.
Would it help, I can probably pull the
Community surveys?
no, well, that too, but I was thinking the previous votes, we have the, I'm blanking on what we call those.
The records?
Yeah, that show actually what, what the passing, how many people voted for.
Cause this was an
Rich-
extension, right?
Yeah, it's the second extension.
Okay, yeah, so if we
It's
can,
increased over time.
Yeah.
The
Well,
support for
Yeah,
it.
the support, yeah, so, do you want me to send you those data points just in case you wanna
yeah,
drop
that would
in?
be nice.
Okay.
So I can highlight that, it passed with this. Next renewal, it was up, it increased support and now it's increased even higher and
Okay.
with clearly a high priority for the town.
Yep.
That'd be nice. Let's see, and then talking about the positive guard, yes,
So the use of the word codify in reference to the charter is maybe a little confusing. Because
okay,
codify typically means code, which it's maybe a little nitpicky, but I might suggest a different word there.
okay. The only other word that was coming to mind was enshrined and that's a little too. So yeah, I would,
It's charterified.
charterized,
She's a lawyer.
yeah. That's your official legal counsel there?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I'll come up with some better wording, cause I use it a few times throughout, so I'll try to come up with something better there. Where's the highlight?
Could say mandated.
Weird, okay.
You don't really even have to have a word there. Just have a stab and then you can talk about it.
Yeah, that actually works really well. And then just, yeah. Because it's already existing, I mean, we're just saying it's gonna carry through and it can't be touched by the council.
Or shall not.
Shall not. And it's also cannot, yeah, because we put the shall in there.
Exactly. Shall not, cannot.
And yeah, I needed to highlight that we're gonna maintain whatever fund, like the successor fund of TNAC, it has to be there. And then guardrails, I did put enshrine here.
It looks like chartered is a word that means put in a charter.
Okay.
So instead of charterified.
Charterfied.
We're the chartification committee.
Yeah.
Commission.
Approved,
And then-
insured.
And I put code. Oh, I just went crazy with those words.
Thank you, did great.
Thank you. But yeah, for this one, just I wanted to highlight that we made the municipal court independent in a way that it was not before.
Yep.
And as I speak, I'll list those ways. I know there's been like older residents and newer residents know that there's been issues around filling vacancies. So I just want to highlight that we're taking that out of the hands of the council, so it's not going to be politicized in ways it has been previously. And transparency requirements. I think the fourth one would speak to a lot of people as requiring the audit, even though we're already doing that, just highlighting that we're requiring that audit and that the data be published for residents would help. And then code of ethics with enforcement and punishment mechanisms. And then continued on the guardrails, we have a lot of guardrails.
Ash, I have one comment, can you go back?
Yes,
Punishment seems a little strong, maybe, we maybe wanna say penalties.
Or
Okay.
repercussions.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like punishment is sort of synonymous with like imprisonment. I don't think we're recommending that, but I mean, maybe you are.
We just wanna strut them through the town and say shame behind them.
Can we bring back like tarring and feathering? Okay, noted, thank you. Continued guardrails. Maintaining the requirement for voter approval, that would be a big one for a lot of people I know. And I did wanna highlight that while the charter does give like power for certain things like excise taxes, we haven't put any of that in the charter. So, cause I remember what Lisa said last time about how people she talked to were claiming that there was gonna be new taxes in the charter and all of that. I wanted to highlight this particular, that the charter and on passage does not include any new taxes. Cause that is a possibility, right? Cause we could have put taxes in the charter because it is a resident vote. that would approve it.
Well, so technically, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to do it as a taper question, it couldn't be embedded in the charter.
Oh, that's right, it has to be an individualized question,
I
right?
think it's a good idea to call it out, to try to
Yeah.
I think we
head that
can
off,
still
but-
state that,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
it doesn't hurt.
Okay. And then, yeah, just requiring more in data around, or more requirements around campaign finance, disclosures and reporting, protecting independent boards and commissions. And I just highlight saying there that we did that by making it harder to remove, boards and commission members than it is to remove the town manager. And then, yeah, the special districts, because that's still top of mind for a lot of people. And then local control. And these are the only two I could really come up with. I felt like we talked more about local control, but that the town, the first bullet is just straight out of most charters that say we can do what we want that is not prevented by the state constitution.
the nature of being a home rule town.
Yeah.
Right. And the second again, change punishments to penalties or something.
Yes. That's good, yeah, penalties does sound better.
Is there a quick and dirty list of the rights that a home rule town has that we wanna call out here?
There's some things in the CML,
Just like
PowerPoint, if I recall correctly.
zoning opportunities or something like that.
I mean, that second one is one of them,
Yeah,
I think, but yeah, you're right, we should, cause it's kind of vague at
because
this
there's a
rate.
lot of stuff that's in the CR or the Article 20 that tells you what home rule can do, right?
Yeah.
And we've kind of been banking on that instead of writing it in.
Yeah,
So I think
so just highlight a few of the
highlight
things.
the ones that some people are, or that it just gives us that sort of power.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be good, because one of the questions we got frequently leading up to the vote was, well, what new powers will this give the town? And we could only say, we don't know, because the charter has to be drafted.
Right.
So now that you've drafted it, we can outline what those are.
Well, I would also say it opens up the possibility of new powers being enacted by ordinance. So the charter doesn't have to anticipate everything.
And we certainly couldn't list everything either.
Right.
Right, so, yeah, the Colorado Municipal League has, I think, it looks like 5 slides.
Okay. On
Do you want me to send you the link, or do you have
Yeah,
it?
please. I probably have it, but that would be nice to go through and edit this.
It has Chrome extension up here.
Okay. And then, yeah, leaving it to the residents. So I just kind of highlighted a few of the things. We haven't agreed on the first one yet, but I think that was kind of, that we hadn't finalized it, but that was the sentiment, the direction we were leaning as far as putting pay in the charter in some certain way. And that changing it would require a vote.
So that might have happened while I was not here. Is that a percentage or
We're discussing it tonight.
That was,
Yeah, it's on,
yeah,
it's on one of the things we have to still decide, that, like the full transition, everything, so.
yeah.
We didn't want you to
We
miss
wanted to
out.
wait for everybody to be
Yeah.
here
Oh, okay.
as much as possible.
Yeah, and Lisa sent an email saying what she was okay with.
Okay, cool.
Then yeah, restating here that all new taxes have to require a general vote, and that filling vacancies in the council will always be the result of a resident vote, in one of 3 ways. And then maintaining the accessible rights of initiative, referendum and recall. And then transition to home rule, just kind of summarizing the transition process as we've kind of laid it out. And again, the highlights just because that's not stuff we have officially decided yet, but I wanted to put it in here as what we have, the directions we were leaning before tonight. And then, yeah, this is the section I kind of needed help. Cause we were talking about the recommendations, the forward work, like what we wanted the board to address because we wanted them to do it by ordinance rather than putting it in here.
But you've mentioned special districts in a prior slide.
Right.
So is that just a recommendation in the prior slide?
The prior slide was what we have required
Uh-huh.
the council to do, and what we want them to do is kind of adopt more ordinances to use that power that we're giving them to govern special districts.
Okay.
On the prior slide, you talk about extending the term 7 months, and also the terms are extended to January, so it's actually 9 months.
I know math. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh yeah, I was thinking 10 for some reason.
Thank you for doing this, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
took it on, so I appreciate that.
It's one of the things that we have to do fairly soon. I didn't realize, like last week it hit, it's just like, that's a month away.
Yeah. Only more meetings.
So yeah, just, we can discuss this, I can take suggestions over email or whatever to populate this section, but I wanted more, I couldn't remember what we had discussed in prior meetings, so. And I think that was it. So. And all the templates, could put some cool pictures and such, but
Pictures of us.
We need flowcharts, is really.
I know, right? Well, that would be useful, actually. I was thinking of using that slide for the transition. Here, like 5 people, their term will be extended, and then the people whose term goes here, they'll be extended further, but then we'll have new, like just stacked,
Do an animation.
yeah.
If things aren't flying in, it's not a good.
Has to like twirl as it flies in. Yeah, I think that was it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoa.
What?
Well, took me a while. We did it early again, and first time the open space was 2,735 yes and 941 no.
So that's like 60-something%?
Can you,
2735
Uh-huh.
and 941. I'm still trying to find, I can't find the records for the original one.
Why are the cables weird?
Back, you can push them.
70,
They're weird today.
no, 65%.
Yeah.
You
They're
know what's
offset.
missing? Well,
No, because they're not lined up.
I don't know, something's wrong. We have to go.
When was that first vote?
This is so weird.
When was that first vote?
That was 2012, that was the first,
what's missing?
it was the first time they extended it. And I'm still looking for the
Original.
original one.
74 and 25. Or I guess 74 and 26%.
But I can't find the record.
That was this one?
The 2012 was
Okay.
74% yes, 26% no.
It's only gone up since then, so.
Oh, I did the math wrong, so.
That's why he's.
2004
Excel is
records
better.
seem to be not on our computer.
Okay.
I will keep searching.
It's one of those things that's stuck in Iron Mountain somewhere.
Well, we can point out other reasons why it's important too to have that so strong. I mean, like, look what happened with Boulder County wanting to put a compost facility or whatever out there. That one that we share with them or whatever.
Okay. Did anyone have any final comments on the presentation before we move on?
Good work.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, on to the draft then. So I think Hillary got us all the edits from our last couple of meetings. So I guess the way she put it in is the intent inside of each section. Was there any comment?
I guess we didn't really have a strong opinion whether it was just gonna be a big intent sort of thing. I think that's what I was thinking, instead of inside of each one. mainly as like an executive summary.
Yeah.
Hillary, did you like doing it under each article, or that just,
Oh, you guys froze.
so on the intent that you put in each article instead of,
Yeah, you guys froze for a second. I would prefer them not be in the charter, if that's good with you guys.
The
Okay.
intent?
Like the intent for any of the sections?
Yeah.
So you missed
Why,
Saturday.
why do you feel that way? I'm just curious.
Mayor Brooks.
Well, I
said
think
that it was
as far as
more-
interpreting a document, the
Makes sense.
more you have in there that's not the document itself, the more opportunity there is for ambiguity. So I did revise the intent language a little bit as I went to be careful about that, but I just think that
Okay.
it's not necessary, if we don't want it to be a binding part of the agreement, I'd rather it not be in the agreement.
Is there anything
I
you can, is there any way you can either write it or write some clause in here that says anything that is,
well, she did.
She
do
did.
that.
You did.
It's in there.
Yeah,
I
I did.
have to say, I'm not a big fan of the intent
really?
part of these.
I don't
I
think it
kinda
should be
feel-
in the charter. I don't like it in the charter. I thought it was okay under the table of contents, under each article, the intent, but I don't like it being in the articles either.
Some of them are really short to the point, and some of them
Yeah.
Well,
really
we're not-
kind of have some, I don't know, bias information. It just doesn't feel right to me when I read that, and I think residents might just be turned off by that.
Not
Vote it
necessarily
down.
biased, but maybe over explaining.
Could be that, yeah, maybe it's just, like the municipal court, that's short to the point.
Yeah.
And
Give an example of one that's not, or
One
that
that's not
that gives you
one.
heebie-jeebies when you read it.
There were some that were longer, and I thought we had homework assignments to review them and decide what people wanted to say.
yeah.
The lawyer's
Article
not
two.
telling us she doesn't want them in there, so I kinda,
I mean, Article 8's kind of long too.
Yeah, no, there were some that were definitely longer because we spent a lot of time talking about them.
I must feel it can be pulled out of here and put on the website in a voter guide.
But what we talked about last time when you weren't here was the concern, and I think it's more than me, but maybe not, that 10 years from now, people will be reading this and not have the understanding of what we're trying to do. So putting it somewhere else, people won't see it. And again, I'm okay either way, I really am.
It could be included with the commission's formal submittal to the board of trustees, in some sort of document that's outside the charter itself, that would memorialize it, because then it would be part of that,
Okay.
meeting's record, and it could be researched, just a thought.
No, that's a reasonable alternative.
All good points.
So one of the reasons I brought up Hillary, maybe, I think I copied you on that email, was Louisville's charter had something similar. And that's kind of what I was thinking along those lines. But it sounds like from a legal point, it's messy to have it. Is that,
It is, I mean, I think it's also almost a change in voice or tone. So you have the sort of the substance of the charter that's very straightforward and direct and sort of language of, it's kind of mandate language. And then you mix in the intent, I think it gets a little complicated. I see it as something being better outside of the document as an explanatory note. But unfortunately, you're not gonna be in a lot of control over that, because your duty is to draft charter. You don't really have a duty to give them an intent document, so.
but they already wrote one.
I tend to like the idea of having it something separate, something separate that's
If it were-
included and people can reference afterwards. Cause again, I don't wanna say the intent of the intent, but
But you did.
I know, I did. The purpose again is just to provide a rationale for doing things. And I can see that being in a companion document.
I agree.
I think if it's formally submitted, it's in the record, I'd be okay with removing it. I do think it would be good for our marketing.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like it's totally appropriate for marketing. I never really liked the idea of it being in the charter. Unless it was within the table of contents, I thought that was okay, but.
Yeah, and that's fine too, but
So another thought is the commission could adopt it by resolution.
What
So you
does that
could-
mean?
We can make resolutions.
You haven't done anything by resolution, but I think you could. You could approve the draft charter for submission to the Board of Trustees, and in that resolution, include your sort of, in the recitals or the whereas clauses, your language that you want to be sure gets communicated.
That feels pretty formal.
Yeah, I guess cause then that becomes kind of the end product of our commission. Is like, here's our charter,
Yeah.
here's our intent, and these are the official products of our work. I like that. Cause it is even more of a weight than submitting it to the Board of Trustees. It's like the official enshrinement of our work.
so, yeah,
I'm good with that.
rather than putting people, well, I will put people on the spot. Do people have a chance to look at them and decide, come up with suggested edits? 'Cause
I have not had time to do suggested edits.
I haven't either.
Haven't.
As much.
What were you doing?
Not much.
No, nothing.
Okay,
Because if we're gonna do any of these things, I think that's critical.
yeah. I think, yeah, that'll be part of our homework for this next week. We all need to bring that for next week. But yeah, Hillary, I think we can assume that we're gonna remove these sections and keep them as a separate document. And so the wording on the intent part in like the miscellaneous provisions, that can be removed as well.
Because there's no question some of them are wordy.
And yeah, some of them like are dry and fit the tone of the document, and some of them are more like, I don't know, it's like teacher tone, right? You're explaining what's going on
Yeah.
before it happens.
And again, the reason for it, and I'll make this really short, was some of them were just weren't controversial.
Yeah,
If they're not controversial, I didn't write anything other than this is what it does.
yeah,
It's those that I thought people may have concerns about, if you will, that I put more words in for.
And maybe we don't need to include the ones that are really straightforward. Maybe we just need to hit on the ones and really give that why.
Yeah, that's fine.
so I mean, that would really then kind of, it would play off of the presentation a lot, cause it would be like a companion doc to the presentation. It's like, this is the big picture. If you want more information about the specifics on these sections that we had a lot of discussion around, it's in this document type of thing. Okay. All right, we'll do it that way then.
Okay.
Chelsea, you all right with that?
Yeah, it's good with me.
You're so quiet.
I'm like decompressing from work still today, it was a long day. Sure, we'll pretend.
I think section 1, I think that was the only change from our last couple of edits. So this looks like it's in the new order, so that's good to see. And then, yeah, Hillary's comment on Article 2 that it's very wordy, or it's many topics, so it might be worth splitting out. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like emergency powers, we moved into here from somewhere else.
Yeah, we moved emergency powers.
And ethics, I believe in some of the charters, ethics was its own section.
I mean, Louisville has like 5 or 10 pages of ethics. So,
Yeah, they
Yeah.
put their code of ethics in their charter.
so I'd be fine with splitting it. It doesn't.
I mean, I feel like even though our ethics section is kind of short, that it still may deserve its own section.
I kind of agree.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea, just to kind of highlight it as an important aspect of it. So we
And
can,
then if future voters want to expand the code of ethics to have it, it's an easy spot to put it
Yeah.
in.
and so that will become the new Article 3. Right after this, or?
Table of contents would be handy.
So So elective office, so for the rest of two though, would it just be elective offices, executive sessions and emergency powers? 'Cause yeah, I think that's all falls under the same sort of umbrella of like operational government. Yeah, ethics does stand out in that list a little bit.
I could see a split, I don't think it's necessary, but I could see a split between describing the positions of council and mayor and provisions related to meetings, so like the exec session provision, the special meeting provision, the town council meeting provision, voting, those seem distinguishable to me from the descriptions of the officials themselves.
So something like elective offices and then, I don't know, like governance processes or something like that?
Yeah, or town council meetings.
Yeah. The concern I have of putting ethics as 3 is it applies to both 3 and 6,
What was 6?
doesn't it? Apply to
Yeah,
town
it
offices.
applies to boards and commissions, is that?
Yeah, it probably does that too,
I mean, it should apply to everything.
so I would maybe
Push
Let's
it
make it
further.
one.
further down.
Let's make it the preamble.
Okay, yeah, we can play with the positioning, but yeah, I think we're all agreed that it should be split out. And then, I guess, what do you guys think about Hillary's suggestion that we put the actual talk about the elective offices and their authority? So it would kind of be 202, 203, 204, 205, 206, and 207 in one section, and then the part about actually conducting the meetings, 208 on would be a separate section.
And emergency powers would fit within that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 202 to 7. And then that'll be one section. And then 208 on will be another one. And then ethics will be its own.
Somewhat, and 211 and 212, it's compensation and oath of office. I don't know.
So that should probably go in the first section then,
Yeah, I
like talking
think so.
about the actual elective offices. Okay. So 202 to 207 and then where is it?
211 and 212.
And 14, 15,
Yeah, 211 and 212.
16.
And then just 208 to the end minus those and the ethics. Okay. Did you get all that, Hillary?
Got the shuffle.
So you can tell me next time if I didn't.
Okay, will do. Okay, do you want to continue going through the edits and changes, or do you want to pause here and talk the compensation?
There were several things that we needed to make sure we got done today,
Yeah.
right? So I think we should probably pause on this
Okay.
and make sure we get those things decided.
I'm looking through it, I'm not sure there's much more to talk about anyway.
Yeah, it looks like,
Excuse me.
so yeah, Hillary added the wording for what happens if we don't have a candidate, and that's specifically called out now. And then I guess 203.4, she suggested like sticking with one redistricting trigger rather than both the 10-year and the 10% population discrepancy. Or she said may be sufficient, but what are your all's thoughts on that?
I think 10 years is a pretty long time.
No, but I think the point is, if at the 10-year point, there's not a reason to redistrict,
Yeah, do we
should
have to?
you have to go through it anyway?
No.
Right, so I think just having the one trigger, I think makes sense.
Yeah.
The 10%, whenever the 10% happens.
Yeah.
But then that leaves you with the, like, once Erie is done growing, and you can have a district that's 9% larger, And if we don't have a secondary trigger, then it just will always be 9% larger.
They can amend the charter.
Yeah.
Pretty sure this will be amended.
Before we reach the point where we're done, before we reach the point where we're done growing.
Malcolm, what did Louisville do? If there was no population change, did they just, probably never happened.
During my tenure there, they did have to change the boundaries once.
Yeah.
And they hired a consultant and showed them different options.
Yeah.
But they did it
But
like just
it's-
at that 10-year mark
Right,
with
it
the
was
census.
after the census.
So they stuck with just the census redistricting.
Right.
One of
So
the,
that's where you see 10 years a lot because, sorry, that's where you see 10 years because the federal census comes out every 10 years.
Right.
So it could be 10% or 10 years. But yeah, you don't need to stay tied to the 10 years if you're doing your population based on registered voters and not the federal census.
one of the thoughts, I don't know who brought it up, but fighting the districts in court as, I don't know, illegal.
Or biased.
If you use the census, there's almost no standing. But if you use other numbers, there could be difficulty justifying that. So
Well, if you-
I know you're really concerned about 10 years and it's fair. But is that going to give us lawsuits in the future because the districts weren't or they're harder to defend legally?
Well, if you use number of registered voters, that's a pretty specific.
So unregistered voters don't get a say?
Well, they're not voting.
In district size? Yes, that's what we're saying.
I mean, why can't we have both? Why can't we have something in there that says, you know, and then shall be reviewed
Yeah,
after 10 years of no change?
Is that what we have in 4? As a minimum requirement, the boundaries, so this is 2034. The boundaries of each district shall be considered every 10 years to confirm compliance with the requirements of this article, such consideration to commence no later than insert here. I think,
Yeah, that was my attempt to make it sort of both.
But Ben, you raised an interesting point I don't wanna lose, which is not just unregistered voters, do children count towards redistricting?
I mean, it's population, right?
yeah.
That's
Right,
the
so
census.
everyone would count. Which could lead to unbalanced districts, I would think, for voting.
But it's by population. Is that,
Yeah.
Hillary, that's probably a legal thing. Is that is it by
Yeah,
population?
I mean, the gold standard is the federal census because it's by actual population. Anytime you stray from that and you're using a proxy, so you're using a proxy of registered voters, as sort of a stand-in for actual population, that does open the door for a challenge. But the redistricting would be done by ordinance. And then that ordinance would have to be challenged successfully as a legislative act, and that would have to be invalidated. So I think you do have protection in the fact that the ordinances of the future will be establishing their factual basis and laying out the reasons for redistricting. But yeah, you are accepting some risk by straying from federal census.
Yeah, I never thought about the difference before.
So putting it how we are, like how you put it in with like basically every 10 years we confirm that our district lines comply based on total population as well?
Well, no, I don't think you should mix registered voters. If that's gonna be the way you count it, I don't think the 10 years, because it tends to tie to the census, is that. I guess that's my point. It's kind of mixing apples and oranges. So you're leaving the census behind and saying we're gonna use registered voters instead. So nothing magical happens every 10 years about registered voters. I suppose you could try to insert like a cross check, like every 10 years you check it against the census and make sure, but that seems like it could be problematic.
I guess my issue with this wording is only registered voters are kind of represented.
Yeah.
Right, I was
In the
thinking that
districts.
too.
As opposed to just waiting 10 years though, and it not be adjusted for 10 years. Is there
Especially-
anything any repercussions that could come from that, from like underrepresented districts over the course of a decade?
And to what degree, like, could we go back over time and say, you know, wait, is there a fewer than 10-year portion of time that something would have gone above a 10%? But we'd have to draw boundaries and then like play it forward.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to do that.
I don't think there's any question in my mind that it would be significantly out of whack in 10 years.
It will
Until we-
be out of whack.
Until we stabilize the growth, until we're
Like, I
out.
think even if we're basing our initial lines on the 2020 census, we're already gonna be,
Those
Yeah.
are already wrong.
And so,
I mean,
So, well,
I guess you,
let's go into two different points separately. One is, do we want to base it on registered voters or base it on population?
that's the thing, if we go more often than 10 years, we don't have a metric for population
we don't,
that
but
we
there
can
could be consultants out there that do.
You could pay someone to do a consensus of the town.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing to have the districts drawn in the first place, isn't it?
Well, we can base it,
You probably base it on
what we write here.
right
the
now we
census
have
from
building permits and
2020.
things that we base some statistics on.
Hillary, what is the legality of using stuff like the town's estimates? Like that would, because that's so much softer, I assume that would be more subject to legal challenge.
Yeah, those are basically unproven. Like I said, the gold standard is the census.
Yeah.
I haven't seen cases, analyzing a different metric.
Okay,
Because
so,
what you're supposed to be proving is one person, one vote. If you don't know how many people there are.
Yeah.
You can't really prove that.
Which is funny, cause it isn't actually one person, one vote, but
If you do by population.
if you go by
So then-
population, yeah.
You could solve this by saying it's registered voters and you can get those records.
Those are easy, yeah, and since Colorado has pretty much universal registration, automatic registration, it's a decent metric. But again, then we're not counting the kids and non-voter residents.
Or the residents who aren't registered because they're in a minority or because they have questionable citizenship status or because they,
don't have a green card.
you know, I mean, there's a whole laundry list of reasons why people might not be registered to vote. That's where the concern comes that you're disenfranchising if you're not counting every person.
Gosh, this is so complicated.
I thought we'd already had it figured out.
Yeah, no, again, it didn't hit me till now.
Yeah,
The
there's a
real
significant difference, yeah.
How does one district sound?
I knew you were gonna say that.
I was just waiting. No, seriously. It's a tough one to solve. I mean,
If,
it's gonna be out of whack in 10 years. Registered voters doesn't take into account unregistered voters. We gotta make a decision.
Registered voters are the ones that are picking the representation,
yes,
you know, the people who are elected from that area come because of registered voters.
that's where I was thinking.
So that
But
means, yeah,
so the people who are elected should only represent their voters, not the people in the district.
No, he's just saying the people
Yeah,
that are
I-
elected can only be elected by registered voters. But that
Yes,
doesn't mean that the unregistered people can't go to that elected person and say, these are the problems and I would like for you to address these.
Even if it might unbalance the population distribution in those districts.
but like realistically speaking for Erie, what is that discrepancy between registered voters versus non-voter residents?
There definitely are some, 'cause I ran into someone I was doing the campaign and talked to people.
I just had
Not a
neighbor
registered
that signed my commission or my candidate form since he's not a voter.
Who did?
When my neighbor, when I was getting signatures,
Yeah.
his wife did.
Yeah, no, I definitely ran into people who said, I'm not registered.
I bet it's lower than the
probably
state or
1% or
national
2%.
average,
That would be a
but
good,
it's still there.
It's better than letting
Maybe
it go
people
10
registered.
years without being redistricted.
Yeah,
I
I feel
guess-
like that's our alternative, right? Like,
Right.
if we have registered voters versus waiting 10 years, I would rather have registered voters, and then say at minimum, we like she says here, confirm compliance with the federal census every 10 years, but
That's the mixing.
But that's the mixing that we can't, it seems.
I feel like if the census is the gold standard, I wouldn't want to ignore it. I know it makes it complicated, but I would feel uncomfortable completely ignoring that census, and also feel uncomfortable going a whole 10 years before. Maybe that 10 years would be appropriate in the future at some point, but right now, with the rate of our growth, 10 years seems a little bit, of a push.
And we're thinking go down is 30 years or something, 20 years.
Hillary, you're the one who told us we could do this.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
You said there's an
I got an
argument.
email,
I mean,
man.
I think there's a way to revise 4 to kind of combine apples and oranges, even though I said that would be complicated, but if you want the 10-year census sort of double check, just to confirm that the districts are within the 10% variation, you could do that, and then I guess you might have redistricting in those census years or as a result of those census years based on the census.
Yeah.
And then more frequent adjustments based on registered voters. So you would be kind of maintaining both of those different metrics, but it might work.
Well, except what happens in a census year where the census says one thing and the registered voter count says something else.
We go by the
Yes.
census.
Yeah, but then what happens the following year?
Right, that's my point. Yeah, what I'm saying is you'll automatically you'll immediately be 10% off.
The next time you run this count,
Right.
so.
You see what I'm saying? So if you redistrict only to district into something that's not within the 10% of voters, that just seems kind of
But-
bizarre.
I mean, we're also redistricting based on ordinance, so I feel like, isn't there some room for like the council to say, hey, we just redistrict last year because the census, because of our gold standard, do we really wanna redistrict again this year because our,
No,
I
because I
mean-
think we're tying their hands with these
Right.
two provisions.
So,
We're forcing it.
is there a way to add some, I don't know,
Subjectivity.
yeah, I don't wanna like leave room for any sour grapes.
It's sort of, well, it's also sort of
But-
like the special election, because we didn't have the election.
I think
We
we have
have
had
people
to
having
make,
another immediate special election. It's the same conundrum.
right, we have had to make compromises because of these legal conundrums before, and I think we have to make another one now.
So getting back to my question, if you had to pick one or the other between registered voters and total population,
Let's
Which would it be?
take a quick vote on that one.
Yeah.
Ash has to run the vote.
Yeah, so who would be in favor of running it solely on registered voters?
I need to look into it more.
Yeah, I
can't
don't
vote
feel
on
like I
this.
can vote on this.
Well, we have to decide, cause
Will you
public
vote?
comments next week, right?
So,
No,
I guess
The hearing.
my curiosity, like,
It's the public hearing next week, so.
Hillary, you said you maybe have some thoughts on how we could combine. Do you have any additional thoughts that may help us on how we could not completely neglect either of those options?
Well, I think, so if we started with a mandatory 10-year review based on the census, I think that population count would have to sort of start the analysis, which we're not, when's the next census? So
You won't get the numbers until 2032.
Two probably, yeah.
When are we supposed to be completed with growth? Or closer to?
20 years?
20 years probably.
So what if we can we put something in that says for the first 20 years after adoption of this charter, we do it this way, and then after that, we do it based on the census? Can we do that
it's
as
either,
part of the transition?
Or the.
it's,
It's a 20-year transition.
Yeah, it's totally normal. Louisville probably has it.
it's either that or once the population growth stabilizes,
Then we implement districts.
Then
What do we define as stable?
or
Amend the
we,
Switch.
well, it does, yeah, or do you let them amend the charter?
Well, I guess like my question is, so say we set it on like the most recent census numbers, that's how it was started, and then it's not redone for, 10 years, 2032. How off are we gonna be? Like, in, you know, those next 9 years until 2032? I mean, is it gonna be such a significant thing, or, I mean, yeah, I mean, I know that we're expecting a lot of growth, but we also want stability in this charter, and I don't know, I mean, do we feel it's gonna be a really huge thing in the next 9 years?
Well, it already
Yes.
is since the
Yes.
last 2 years, like
Yeah.
since
So-
2020, we've already,
Parkdale, Westerly,
I mean, they could,
Morgan Hill.
So we're growing generally like northeast-ish, right? I mean, is that kind of an
Except
east?
south is Parkdale.
Now south is added.
There's only Parkdale, there's also, but there's Westerly, Summerfield, and Morgan Hill.
Sorry. Go ahead, Hillary.
Now, how much of the town is not platted and subdivided and is without entitlements? I mean, you could probably come up with a pretty reasonable estimate based on current entitlements.
I mean,
There's a
could
fair
a
amount.
district commission or the independent commissioner incorporate that? That's kind of what we would
That's what
hope.
you're expecting them to do, yeah.
That could be one of our recommendations, that the districting is selected based on expected growth while still maintaining the population, so it's legal, but will grow into it. And then it maintains it until 2032, and then it gets redrawn again, and hopefully, I mean,
I
even
think
in
there's a
my,
lot of legal challenge space when you're looking at projections.
No, I think
but it's still legal.
if you
And it's-
if you draw a pie shape that's kind of small here and it's still within the 10% deviation of the other pie shapes, this one will fill out to the equal and then 10% greater
Yeah.
within 10 years or at about 10 years, and then you redraw it again.
But then that means if we're targeting the 10 years, for them to hit parity at 10 years, then they're basically underrepresented now.
Yeah.
Well, but you're hopefully within the 10% deviation. You're on the negative side of that.
How many building permits are?
There has to be
Do you know?
a reasonable solution, cause there has to be another
600 a year.
I don't think
town,
this is
city
the-
that went home rule that was
This
still
big.
growing, like.
Okay, so if it's 600,
It was, Tinmouth was the one I found.
That's.
and that's the one that did one
Yeah,
district, but
so it's
put in the
1200.
guidelines.
we use, I think,
That they can
2.3,
expand. It was
2.3, if I remember,
Shall?
somewhere around there.
You could shall it, but
Because we had to do that for
that
the
was their,
fees.
what I could tell is that was their solution.
I mean, what if we set it, I mean, every 10 years and like, is there, can it be amended? Like, if we do have significant growth, can we say like, we can't predict this, we don't have a surefire option to like set this in place right now, so let's say every 10 years. And if we have some significant shift, then we would expect some sort of amendment to accommodate that.
The other thing we should consider when we think about that is, what is the ramifications of a redistrict? So you're voting for different people, or you may have been slotted into a different candidates represented area. How many times does that happen? Everyone has 4-year terms. We vote we vote every 2 years.
Right.
So, like,
5 elections.
at what rate will we go out of skew enough
Yeah.
that the voting happens enough,
good
the
point.
representation changes enough that we should be redistricting?
Yeah.
That's a good point,
That's a really
I
good
mean,
point.
with that, every
All
4
kinds of
years,
crazy stuff going on
there's-
up there.
Sorry.
No, you're right.
I feel
So
like
back to Tinmouth.
Alright, here's another thought. So we go with the census. In theory, you're still getting better or better local representation than you are at large, in theory. Just leave it at that. I don't know
I
what-
agree, I feel like simple is best, like honestly, the more we overcomplicate, I don't know.
I don't love the idea, I don't love going 10 years, but we have to come up with something.
Well,
We have to
and-
make a
And that's
decision.
quite
One
objective, right? The census is very objective, it's everybody included.
It's one district may be out of whack.
But then what is the
There's-
legality of using projected growth
We're not.
to draw, but like your suggestion was even then, we kind of project how we're gonna grow to make sure that the districts are within that.
you're not out of legal
I don't
standing.
think so.
Because you're within the 10% deviation, and this is just guidance for the person who's doing it, it's not charter
Right.
language.
It's not for, technically for us to worry about, but I do know that when I was doing my research on districts and how you draw the lines and stuff, it's supposed to be done by census. It's just, that's the way it's done. I thought there would be a little bit of room for leeway as we transition, but apparently we can't.
The other thing to add to that point is, in order to, if we were doing it on registered voters, someone has to trigger a registered voter count to know if we're out of whack. And so there's potentially some ordinance involved in that, or some funding involved in that, or someone's job involved in that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the town clerk keeps that list going, at least a count. Because they have to pull that before every election, and we have an election every year.
But then they have to divide it by district. I guess it would be divided by district.
Yeah, they would have to.
You have to just do the math. Okay, so that's not as big of a difference.
I don't
How many
think
ballots to
so.
print and send out, so.
Right, okay.
Well, no, we wouldn't do that because we wouldn't be the ones printing them anymore. But we would have to notify our 2 counties how many to.
Right, but that's what I mean, if they have to.
Yeah.
I'm set,
I'm arguing for the census.
I'm arguing for census.
That's
Well-
that's where I'm at, that's why I didn't wanna vote on registered voters. Cause that has to be one or the other.
It's, yeah.
Alright, what do people think? Who wants it now based on census every 10 years? Registered voters?
One district?
I compromised on even years here.
I'm not voting, I can't vote on this one,
That counts as a yes vote.
that's fine.
Yes, I was gonna say.
I don't know what,
Y'all
I don't know
figure-
what yes means, but it's a
You
yes
guys
vote.
figure it out.
I think
feel like I need
whoever we get to draw these lines will do a good job and can use prediction with the 10% deviation in mind. I think we'll be okay.
And I
It
think,
won't be too horrible.
I think even from
Just,
the
I was playing,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was playing with the district tool. So I've created a district with 8,600 people and a district with 11,500. And that's a 28% of the voter, or 28% of the population and 37% of the population. So it's within that 10%.
10%.
And it's a 3,000 population difference. So, I mean, it is significant, but if they draw it right, we should be able to grow into it.
And adjust it when it gets even worse.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay, and I
thought
think
I
we
read
had
total
a
was
strong,
5%, but maybe
I
it's
thought we had a strong majority, but, well, Ash, which way did you vote? Did you vote for census or not?
Oh, right, I didn't. Yeah. Census, probably.
So there's at least 6 of us, which is 2/3. 2 abstentions.
I just don't know,
I
You abstained or did you?
like,
So
it's so hard.
what information do you need, Brian? What are you looking for?
I'm fine with going with the census.
I-
Long term, it makes the most sense.
I agree.
Right now, it doesn't, but we
We
have to make
compromises.
some
We
sort
have
of
to.
decision.
You gotta convince people that this is a long-term thing.
It is, it's 30 years from now.
Yeah.
It's gonna make more sense to go with.
And maybe even 20 years from now. And I'm trying to think how many elections, so 20 years is 10 elections. How many of those 10 elections would be significantly out of balance?
I mean, I feel like going off of the census is actually probably better for voters than redistricting every 2 years.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this.
It's confusing, it's
Yeah.
so confusing,
Yeah.
so I
Yes.
feel like census is probably the best direction to go.
And they'll still get more representation than they're getting.
Yeah, I
We're writing the charter
I
that
just
all
don't know
growth
if I can raise
stops.
my hand to it.
No more growth.
As of right now, it all stops.
Old goes, the new builds.
But yeah, like it reminded me of what you said about how like every time the school district lines change,
yeah.
you get jumped back
It's
and forth.
confusing. It
Yeah.
makes the most sense, just not
The way
today,
it's
but
written-
we have to.
The way it's
do-
written
we
by
have to make-
registered voters, it could feasibly happen every election where you jump between districts.
Yep.
And so it's not, okay, I'm
Census.
okay with stability.
Particularly with the 4-year terms.
Huh?
With the 4-year terms, it would mean representation could be different anyway,
Yeah,
so.
Okay.
Let's do census.
Census.
Yeah, Hillary, I think we're in agreement here that we wanna go with the 10-year census-based redistricting.
Excellent. I have incorporated those changes.
That was quick.
She's probably
You
working
had
on it
that-
as we were talking.
Yeah,
Well,
like you, Amy.
She had that paragraph all ready to go.
She saw it coming. We just wasted 45 minutes talking about something that she knew ahead of time.
Yeah. Thank you for letting us talk it through.
It's like when I let my kids come to decisions, it's sometimes quite painful to listen to, but it works out most of the time.
It's a learning experience.
Yeah.
You guide them with the occasional prod and then they get there.
Just wait till they become adults.
If they make it that far.
They are trying to kill themselves now.
Oh, I meant me.
Murder is not an option today.
I cannot homeschool, let's just say that.
Alright, let's continue through at 206. Hillary has some notes here about qualifications to serve. So I remember this came up because we had tried to expand that list of disqualifying convictions. And Hillary's point here is that that phrasing is specifically pulled from the Colorado Constitution. So it's kind of bulletproof. If we try to add on to there with further things that can disqualify people from holding office, then that can be subject to legal challenge.
So we've got to live with non-public embezzlers.
Yeah, embezzlers of non-public funds.
Yes. That's a better way of putting it. So.
Okay, so are we, I guess, in agreement then that we should leave the legally ironclad phrasing?
I mean, we don't really have any options, right?
I mean, we could, and then we could wait to see if people challenge it, but
I would leave it legal and leave it up to the people to discover that we have an embezzler here that's running.
so, okay, so in 206, we'll leave the legal phrasing. And then, let's see, that was in
You're
206.
safe with the commission, with not
The
being.
URA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that.
Took me a minute
Safe.
to figure out what TOE URA was, but
Yeah,
then I did.
so Hillary, you're saying we're safe in terms of this not being a town like board or commission that the trustees can.
Correct. So this provision would not disqualify the town council from being the town URA.
Okay.
Good.
Cool. And then 207, she added the phrasing for when we have an insufficient number of candidates would count as a vacancy.
Can I reply all to Amy's email?
Hmm?
Can I reply all to Amy's email?
No.
You can reply to me and I'll send it out.
Okay.
Well, we're all sitting in a meeting together. When you're doing the reply all, does that?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
But we still have the potential, and I don't see any way around it.
yeah, so it sounds like, so Hillary, correct, this is our concern when we got to this part, is the way it's written where if not enough candidates means a vacancy, then basically this provision would trigger a special election, cause we're not closer than 180 days to the next election.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's gonna be an election and a special election?
Yeah, basically if we get no candidates, we need to run another election.
So if this is what we were talking about, and that just seems silly, I feel like we need to have some sort of.
It is what it is. I think the chances of that actually happening would be worth it. Somebody would step up then.
I mean, we have enough like peer pressure in this town that if we get there's no one running, someone would be like, hey, no one's running, go run.
Right?
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, is there a way that we could,
Like put a like front end on it.
well, put like so like your petitions are due X day to say that you're gonna run, right? And if there is a vacancy, there's no candidates for a certain district, can there be something special that says they'll get, that district, only that district will get an extension of like 10 days? So somebody can peer pressure a neighbor get them their signatures and get them in. So we don't have to have a whole special election afterwards.
I think there's actually incentive to be a candidate, when say there's one open seat and one candidate. I mean, that's really appealing because that person could be appointed rather than having to be elected. So I'm not sure you're gonna see the lack of candidacy very often. If it's looking like there aren't any candidates, I think it's likely someone will throw their hat in because they could get appointed.
Like basically win by default.
Yeah, it's called by acclamation. The charter doesn't talk about it, but I believe it still applies. So if there's an election where there are only the number of candidates that there are open seats, the election doesn't actually have to go forward and they're deemed elected by acclamation.
Save money.
We've never had that problem.
Not since I've been here.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like if there's no filed candidates and it's like the day before an election, the threshold, or the day before the deadline, the thresholds for signatures are low enough that someone would be able to file and be like, hey, no one's filed, so I'm gonna go ahead and just get my signatures and run and win by acclamation. Yeah, I don't see a really good way around like,
Yeah, I know.
if it happens, then oh well, I guess we run another special election for just that one district almost immediately. Can we put in like a cool down period so it's not like literally immediately? Or would just the process start like from the candidate petition
I guess the
process?
declaration of vacancy after the vote is certified, there's a vacancy in office.
Okay, so it would have, like, yeah, I guess it would have to wait until certification of the election, no one was elected, well, would it go until the seating? So like January, right? It would go until January, because there wouldn't officially be a vacancy until January, when the new council was seated. And then the new council would have to declare a vacancy and initiate the process for a special election.
Jeez Louise.
That would be their first act, literally.
I don't think it's a good idea, but that district is vacant until the next election idea out. I don't like it.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think there's gonna be a problem.
I think if it gets to that point, someone would run for the
Yes.
special election.
I think so too.
I think that's what we have to do.
Okay. So, and that's what happens by default based on the current verbiage, right, Hillary?
Well, are we forgetting about the appointment
Well,
of the last candidates? Is it because there weren't any prior candidates? Is that the issue?
Yeah,
That's the issue.
exactly.
So there isn't a desire to like go back to a prior election?
No, I think
Not that
2 years back would be too much of a gap.
I mean, but guys, think about what happens today at large. Have we ever had a case where there weren't enough candidates?
No, but the problem is
I know
we're
it's the
subdividing the pool.
I know, but
But the point of subdividing pool is to get more local representation. And so
And I feel
I
like
think the people will become candidates because they're gonna feel a lot more
electable.
electable and responsible for their area.
Yeah.
Or intent on helping out their
I
area.
mean, we never even really discussed this, it was Mayor Brooks that brought it up, that we needed to have a plan in place. if
And I
there
think-
was-
I think adding that we're specifically calling out when there's not enough candidates. And I think in the 207-2, where Hillary put in the wording for following an election with an insufficient number of candidates, that gives us that kind of cool down period and time for someone to drum up a candidate. And then, yeah, we'd have a special election for that one district seat.
I like it.
I think it's,
Let's do it.
I'm good.
Besides, next we get to talk about compensation,
oh yeah.
which means more people will run.
Let's lower it.
Okay.
So I do have a vacancy thing to bring up.
What's up?
And I was looking, I don't have anything to draw on, I had been sketching at home.
Do you want me to get the whiteboard out?
Oh,
I got the whiteboard out.
in here?
Yep.
Alright,
It's gonna go in the archive.
You have to sign it.
You guys seen the whiteboards where you can draw on it and then
I
press?
didn't get a chance to draw on the whiteboard yet, so.
No, but oh
Those
my
are-
god.
Those are old school, now they're just all digital. Alright.
The whiteboard?
It fixes your handwriting, like I was writing on
Oh, I
one.
need that.
It's so nice, you just write anything and it's like this beautifully,
Oh, I need that.
it's so cool.
Does it keep it in line too? Cause I'm
Yes,
always
it does, like your hand's going this way. How about if we straighten that for you?
And I'm lefty, so I just erase as I write.
Yeah, that's,
I had a professor who would do that.
It's so
What was he,
awesome.
left-handed?
Just
or
like
right-handed?
write and then erase as he went.
I could never be a teacher because of that,
My
and that's
math-
what I really wanted to do.
My math teacher did board from right to left, cause then your body isn't blocking. He was very conscious of these things.
That's-
He was a left-handed person?
No, he was a right-handed person and he wrote right to left, so his body wasn't blocking his previous writings.
Wow.
Wow.
He won math teacher of the year.
I bet.
That is super impressive.
Can we bring him in to draw our lines?
Suits. He wrote one of my AP problems.
Is Hillary able to see?
Might have
Well,
to-
I wanted to
if we pull it over there by goodness.
chicken scratch. So,
is there trouble with the camera?
No, it's just,
Alright.
it's a good camera, just,
hold on one sec.
it might be a little bit out of the frame for Hillary to be able to see it, she's seeing it
Right,
differently.
that's what I make sure.
Yeah, it's not really legible, I think, sorry.
It's not like
Neither's my handwriting.
We could come hold it up
I
in front
didn't,
of
I
the
just,
camera.
alright, so
Green,
here's my thought.
Alright.
This is a term, right? A 4-year term. November 24 to November of 28. So a vacancy occurs after May, right? And then there's an election here.
There's not a middle, oh,
No,
or,
a special election.
Well, could,
is there a special election?
well, it can be a coordinated election.
Well, there is an
Yeah.
election, but for us, it would be a special election, wouldn't it?
Okay,
Why would there be an election there? Wouldn't we just fill the vacancy with the previous elections?
It's over
candidates?
90 days, over 180 days.
I thought we
It's
left
over.
it, I thought we left it open.
I'm, okay, keep
Alright,
going.
hold on one second. So, alright, if a vacancy
It's over
goes to the next November.
Yeah.
And the person is elected, they serve all the way to 28 to fill that term,
Yeah, it's just,
right?
there's this, logically, isn't it a special election, even though it matches the time?
It would
Yes,
match
it would be called a
It's
special
called a
election.
special election.
with
It
the
doesn't
count.
matter.
Yeah. So any of these would fill the term to 28, right?
I think so.
An appointment
so one
would,
point to what you're drawing is on 2074 for the council member A, it says, if a vacancy is declared on or after May 1st, immediately preceding the next regular municipal election. So regular municipal elections would be,
That's
Would
that's
be
that one.
that would be here.
Yes.
yeah.
So that's why I'm saying it would be a special election, but it doesn't, I don't know that it matters. Why don't you finish what you're trying to say, and we can decide if it matters.
Well, I'm trying to work through this to make sure that,
Yeah.
you know, we're kind of somewhat covered here. So an appointment from the previous pool of candidates takes us to here, which is a special election.
Right, but it wouldn't the next one. Where you, if December 25, someone resigns, it would be more than 180 days, so there'd be another special election. It wouldn't be an appointment at that point where your pen is. November 25,
Yeah,
the
November 25 happens after that.
SE, it would be SE, there is no A.
Cause there's no regular election.
There's
to
no
go back to.
election within 180 days.
We went, oh, you're right, so that's gone,
So that's gone in the same in
and that's
in
gone.
27, in the odd years, yes.
Okay. So say we have a special election here, does that bring the person all the way to here, or does that bring the person all the way to here?
I would think it's to 26, it would do the next regular election,
It only brings them here.
yes.
Why
Yeah.
wouldn't it bring them the whole way to finish the term?
Is the vacancy for that full term? I think you're filling that term.
You're filling that term.
Hillary, do
You're
you know
not
how,
bringing them to this municipal
But there
election.
wouldn't be a special, so,
hold on,
Go on.
Hillary, do you know if how we have the wording written currently?
The vacancy appointment should only go till the next regular election.
Right.
That's typically how it's done. I'm reviewing the language to
That's the
see if it's specified.
Okay, and so like for, as far as this,
Special election.
like as far as that legal phrasing, regular municipal election, that means our November of even years only, it doesn't follow, like, even if we have ballot questions or anything like that on the odd years, it's not gonna count those?
Correct, and so an appointment can never last beyond, or should never last beyond the next time voters in town are voting on candidates. So it's always sort of a shortened appointment term.
Right, but the question is about a special election. Would the special election fill out the term of the person who vacated? I think they would have to, because otherwise your 2-year, 4-year thing will be off
I think if they're
balance.
elected, they should be able to
Fulfill the
fulfill
term.
the term.
Yeah,
If they're
but that's it,
appointed, then
fulfill the term.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, if they're, and what, that's the question I'm asking, if that is our intent.
Fulfill
The
the term.
appointment brings it to the next candidate election,
Regular election.
or election, a special appointment, or I'm sorry,
Special election.
special election goes all the way to the end of the term.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, now,
Wait, but I don't think that's what Hillary was saying based on the wording we have now.
She was saying vacancy being appointed, or were you saying, oh no, any vacancy you said?
Yeah,
Alright,
it's
yeah,
defined
that's what
by
I first
vacancy,
thought.
not by the method
Appointment
of,
or election.
it's not separated.
Yeah, that's a good point.
is there any history, Hillary or Malcolm, around if a vacancy is filled by a special election, they get to carry through the term of the vacancy, or is it always like, doesn't matter how a vacancy is filled, it should always only just go until the next election, even if it
So
wasn't?
you can maintain staggers, so you'll maintain the stagger better if by special election you only fill until the next regular election, but I think it could go either way.
Yeah, cause I think the point Brian is making is if someone is elected, then they should fill that full term. If they were appointed, as in like they were the runner-up of the previous election, then yeah, they should only get to go till the next regular election.
But the special election is filling the vacancy of the term that already has an expiration date. It
Right.
doesn't reset the term.
Correct.
Correct.
So that's what we were saying, is like, cause you said for a vacancy appointment, it only goes till the next regular election.
That's what 4A says.
But it doesn't define a special elected.
Yeah, it doesn't separate between filling a vacancy by appointment or filling a vacancy by a special election.
It just says 4B,
Well, actually, A, I think it is. But
2074B says, the council shall act to either make an appointment to fill the vacancy as limited, as appointed, or shall order an election. It's the only place that it says, then we have an election.
Actually, and
No,
Brian,
no,
I think
A.
based on this, that V from May 1st to November 25th, that's not a
no, it
V,
says vacant.
that's special election.
Oh, before, I'm sorry, I misread it.
Because it specifies
Missing a clause.
May 1st before the next regular election.
That's why.
Right, and so I think we're
That's
missing
interesting.
after May 1st,
So it would only be like the.
So this one isn't here.
we're missing something.
Yeah, that's gonna be,
That's gone and that's gone.
yes, that's all special election.
But we're missing, we're missing a case here, guys.
Which one?
So we talk about on or after May 1st preceding the next regular
Election, it stays.
election, but what if it's a year until the next regular election?
That's what I was just laying
Yeah.
out, that would just fall under the special election /
Right.
appointment.
But I don't think we say that in either A or B, but maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that May 1st is vacant.
Yeah, so we don't have something that's more than 60
That one's
days.
Vacant.
And then the other two that you erased out, special election, write those in.
Alright, let's see.
Case
So
covered.
this is special election. And this is special election.
So in like what we had when trustee Van Woudenberg resigned.
Right.
You're not covering that here.
No, that we are covered, because that's,
Well, what happened here was it was an appointment. You're saying there should be a special election.
No, because there was,
We said
there
if it's
was just
within
an
100
election, right?
If it's
And so when he resigned,
Within
180
180
days.
days, that
was
would
moving.
be.
but his seat was not up, well, his was up
It
for
was
election.
appointed by Dan.
It was, yeah.
Appointed to
And so
fill
like,
it.
it just went to the runner-up.
Right,
It did, but he had to then,
and a 2-year term.
he only got the term until the next regular election.
Right.
Because he was appointed.
So why is there an SE in the first,
This one,
no,
This
one more,
this one.
that,
Yeah,
why is
that
there an
should be-
SE there?
That should be appointment,
That's appointment only.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
And again, after
over
26,
years.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Right
no, it's been
after-
2 years since that person's election. That
should-
person's
But there
been
was,
run.
but there was an election,
So you would do it from the next election?
you
where that
go,
person
you go to the
didn't run.
prior election, you pick a
You
candidate.
go
Runner-up.
to
Right.
this one, unless there is no one, then it's a special election.
Yeah.
So it could be,
Oh, I guess you're right.
but you're right, it would be appointment first, then special election.
Mhm.
But then that falls even after the May. Cause the way we've written it, I don't think,
That's what I'm saying, I think we're missing one case, and I think this is the case we're missing.
so like I think all of them are appointment. We don't trigger a special election
No.
specific, where does that go? Then,
It says they can make an appointment.
yeah, so it's either, there's no situation where it's only special election.
Prior
It's
to
either
first.
appointment or special election if there's no more appointments. And so even even at April 30th of 2026, like April, right before May, right?
Okay.
If there's a vacancy declared, they go back to the 24 November election, find the next unsuccessful candidate,
he
and
brings
appoint
it
that
to
person.
this.
Yes, and it appoints them and it takes them
So
through
it
that.
would only take them, if they're in April, it would only take them a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And then they would go down the list, if there's no one who wants to take the spot, then it becomes a special election. So I think we're covered. Basically, there's a 1.5-year period where we would go back to the prior election.
Right.
And if the vacancy is right 6 months before the next election, then it just stays vacant. No one gets appointed.
So we'll go back to the prior election, even if the candidate hadn't run in that election.
No, wait.
Yes,
Wait, say that again.
so if the person elected in November of 24
Yes.
resigns in December of 26, sorry. So they resign there.
Yeah.
We would go to the November of 26 election, even though that candidate didn't run in that election.
In 24, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you would
that's what we're
still
saying.
have somebody from that district,
Yeah,
in theory.
Yes.
You
So
And
we've
that's
got, yeah,
So-
we're kind of covering a lot
yeah,
of,
so I think, okay.
does that allay your concerns here?
I just wanted to
Talk it through.
make sure,
Yeah.
talk it through to see if we were covering. But it does bring one more question.
Yep.
Say someone is appointed here, does this count as a term of their term limit?
No, because I think we've defined terms as a 4-year term. So if they're only if they're appointed there, they're only filling until November 26.
So they
And
can
then that does not
clearly
count as their term.
almost be in office for 11 years.
10.
Uh,
What would it be, 11? Yeah,
It would
maybe.
be 2 full term, it could be 12 because they could have an appointment.
It's almost 12 years. I'm just saying, I'm just,
yeah.
again, throwing this out there.
I mean, we're letting them stay in office indefinitely if they keep getting votes for the
Yeah.
right position.
And they
And
can
they go
hop.
from
Is
mayor
that
and
it?
they go
They
back.
can go back and forth.
Yeah.
I just,
I think I'm happy with how we have it laid out, because it does take the politics out of it.
agree. It's just making sure we're covered and making sure that our intent.
Yeah,
Except that we're saying, well, remember, it's with the limitations.
yeah,
And
'Cause
I'm
we've
trying
got
to
the
remember the
limitation.
limitations are.
they can appoint or call a special election,
Right.
and it lays out how they go through this process. They start with the appointments, going back to the previous election for the next unsuccessful candidates. And then special election if nothing. So basically, anywhere where there's like an A or SE, it's A first, then special election. Except basically that's 6 months prior to any regular election. That is just, it stays vacant.
Yes.
And if anyone is anyone is appointed, I guess that's the edge case I wanted to clarify, is if we have a special election in like fall of 25, right? That person is elected, do they just serve until November 26th?
That was,
Yeah.
and I think they should, if they're special elected, they should fulfill the term. That was my thought.
How do we,
The residents have decided, voted.
how do we have that written, Hillary, do you know?
It's written now that they're filling the empty seat, so that seat has a defined term, that term ends when it ends, and it shouldn't be extended, so I think the answer to your question, my recommendation is no, even if it's a special election, they should only serve out the term that they're filling.
That's what we're saying.
That's what we're saying.
Right, that's what we're saying, like they would fill out the term, but like
The term could be 3 years left.
It shouldn't be shortened.
it will be a shortened term because they're not filling the full term.
But it's not
Different than an
short.
appointed term.
Right.
Right.
So
Right,
like,
appointed
do we,
only goes to the next regular election.
and yeah, I guess I wanted to make sure we do make that distinction in the charter.
Okay, so yeah, the distinction there being that if you're appointed, it might be shortened.
Right,
If
you
it's a
just,
special election, you can serve out the full term.
right,
Yeah, gotcha.
and that is, like, is that how we have it written?
It doesn't really
It doesn't say, and that's what
I can see how they need to clarify that.
Okay, so that would be, yeah, so I think Brian is right that we probably wanna lay that out, and I think we're in agreement that that's how we want it to work,
Yes.
so yeah. That would be additions to that 2074.
Right.
I think you can skip.
Okay.
So clarify the
Thank you.
term,
Sure.
termination of term.
I'd be drawing on the back of the postal service app.
Oh, you're looking for a new job?
Okay. I think now we are at compensation.
One thing before I forget,
Yes.
this is probably a jump ahead, but we got a public comment about recall petitions. I wanted
Yes.
to touch on that after compensation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually already on that page myself.
Yeah, so I wanted to, I think that was something.
Alright, just wanna make sure that was.
But yeah, let's decide on compensation. I think personally, after the discussions we had and how,
What were the trustees and mayor feedback on that?
I think they pretty much all universally agreed that they would never vote to increase their own pay, that it was pretty much political suicide, it was just never gonna happen. So if we want them to be compensated different from what we have it set now, we need to set it. And so they threw out suggestions on how it could be structured, and I think the one that I liked the most was based on a percentage of what was it, household median income, I think it was, like average median income?
AMI, yeah.
Yeah.
Average median.
Cause that's an actual like,
Average median mean.
huh?
It means that you take the average, it's the median, as opposed to the mode or the mean.
But then average,
Yeah, I understand all
I think
these
it's
words.
annual.
Right.
I think it
I
was.
think it's annual.
Average and
Annual.
median are very
I
different.
think it's
That's
the
what I'm saying.
annual.
Annual.
Annual median, thank you.
yeah, cause average is mean, average means mean,
Yeah, annual, yeah.
so annual median income.
Yes, sorry, yes.
And I think it did, if we did it, somebody ran the numbers on it, and it's a little bit less than what we were initially proposing, but it's definitely,
Yeah.
Well, it was an
Depends on what the
AMI
percentage is.
times the percentage.
yeah.
It's not an AMI.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, a percent of AMI paid monthly.
Yeah.
And
That's
what
where-
percent are we?
So
I think so.
I was like, I mean, I like 0.6%, 0.8%.
Because that basically adds up to 750 and 1,000.
By the way, it's area median income.
Oh, area?
So one thought I've had on this AMI that everyone really likes, is this a perverse incentive to get higher median or higher income individuals to move in? To increase pay?
Or the inverse of that, is it not incentive to do affordable housing or lower income?
Yeah, to me, this feels like it somewhat incentivizes
Oh, legit.
getting as rich people here as possible.
That's an interesting point.
I mean, it's so
Mayor,
low
what he
on
said,
the
it
I was
was,
gonna say, it's such a small amount of money though, like monthly, and I feel like at 0.6 or 0.8% of that, like, it would take a pretty big shift in that median income to like really impact the pay. I feel like that'd be a lot of,
I think, yeah.
Malcolm, what are the affordable housing requirements that we've got for the stuff going in? Like what was the income requirements?
We're still working on that.
Okay.
What,
In terms of, I'm trying to remember exactly. In terms of 60, 80, 120% of area median income.
Yeah.
In dollar amount, I'm sorry.
Well, so what was it, but what was
I
it in terms of
remember 150
percentage?
as being kind of the low end, wasn't it? The smallest,
150.
150,
150,000 a year was the.
oh, to afford a house in Erie now,
Yeah.
Oh, it's at
you need
that
to
level.
earn at least
Yeah,
$150,000 a year.
So even though the area median income is 123, that means most people here can't afford a house?
Right. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, if you work in Erie, you typically can't afford to buy a house here.
But area median income means people who live here. So it's people, so I guess it's people
Yeah.
who bought
people are
before the
spending
prices.
more than 30% of their income on housing, so they're.
Or they bought before the prices went up this high.
Right.
Cause I think I
The
would follow.
general rule of thumb for here, I think is like 60% of area median income means you have to earn $60,000 to be able to afford that. I'm not saying it clearly, but it's roughly 1-to-1 in terms of 60% equals $60,000, 80% equals $80,000. That's what you need to earn to be able to afford a home at that price range.
Yeah, but again, it's the income of people who work here. Yeah, so area median income is defined as the midpoint of a specific area's income distribution.
Yeah, so
It's calculated based on, yeah, so it
whoever
doesn't mean
lives
that
here,
so it's not the income of people who live here.
yes, it is.
it is.
It's the median.
It's the people who live here.
Well, it's actually the county, there's a Boulder County and a Weld County area median income.
And we just average it.
That's the average
That's
part.
the question.
There we go.
When we're trying to do affordable housing is which ones should you use? Weld's is lower, Boulder's is higher. A higher area median income means you can, Bob, help me out here. The higher one means you can,
Okay,
my brain's freezing.
sorry, I missed the first part, so I was reading, sorry.
So Weld has a lower area median income.
Right,
Boulder has a higher one.
yes.
There are pros and cons of which one you use. And so far, it's one or the other, it's not like we can average them.
Oh, okay, yeah, cause I know, yeah,
Okay, but the metric drives the behavior. If it's area median income, they get paid more when that median shifts up.
higher, yes.
And it's not like bringing in 2 or 3 really rich people is gonna affect that. It's making more people make more money. But another metric would be something to.
Well, no, it's not more people make more money. It's enticing people to move here who make more money. Cause it's not tied to people who work here. So it's not like they're increasing the average wages of
Right.
people who live in town.
Right, that didn't come out right, but you're right, so it's the people who make up our citizenry need to make more money on, so like the rising tide lifts all boats, like that lifts them up too, but we are concerned about the lower paying jobs and the housing for those lower paying.
So I
jobs.
wonder-
Not we are concerned, that's a concern that's currently going on right now.
Would it,
I still like
But-
CPI.
What's a
myself.
different metric we could use, something tied to budget, something tied to CPI?
I think once it's set, I don't see why the council raise should be different from other employees of the town's raise.
but see, CPI is still just a way of increasing the pay, right? So we would set the initial and then peg the increases to CPI?
It's an inflationary thing,
Yes,
it's
it's
not
inflationary,
it's
it's
not,
not-
it doesn't match any type of behavior or results.
Right, I think it's cleaner. myself.
But in order to do that, you have to set a number, like, okay,
Yes.
$1,000 and
Yes.
then adjust it by CPI. And I
Yes.
think we are concerned, we've shown some hesitancy to set that
I
$1,000.
think we, after talking with the council, I think we should.
I don't
And-
think
and we
should
could
put-
do
I
it
still
with-
don't think we should put numbers in
Okay.
this thing.
What we could do
That's why I like the
is
idea
doing
of
it as the
AMI,
amendment.
cause we could just be like, it'll be based on.
I mean, that's just,
If we don't do it, it's not gonna get done.
Well, but what
So,
about,
but,
the-
or what we could do again is the amendment that you had talked about.
I would
No.
be fine with the
Yeah.
amendment.
I
I
would
really
do
think
it-
that,
It'd be
I
a
really think that a lot of people are gonna see that and they're just gonna,
Yeah, no, I'm in favor
Color
of the
in now.
amendment.
themselves, so
Wait,
the ambiguity could.
and let the residents decide that.
yes.
so my thought, if putting it as an amendment, I brought this up last week. People complain about roads and we don't pay for it. So everyone says, oh, we want better roads, and then we reject all tax increases.
Mhm.
Colorado seems very against any sort of money being raised at all. And my thought is, right now, our mayor may be making $5 an hour to represent the town. And that seems awfully low. And the people, I don't know,
what's your point about the amendment part?
I don't think it should be an amendment. I think,
Because, yeah, if the way that, I'm with you, the way that Colorado historically votes is they'll see tax increase or pay increase and they'll just vote it down.
But then our charter gets voted down.
Their voter charter, it takes the whole charter down.
Right.
Because they're gonna find, the people that are gonna vote no on this are gonna find points in this charter.
but Lisa
And
also
that's the
raised a
only
good
And that's the
point.
only thing they're gonna focus on.
Lisa raised a good point that people are gonna vote no matter what we do.
Like,
Well, yeah, but
Yes.
yes, it's the hope that more people don't vote no because we put that in there. I mean,
Let's face
this commission is only created by 4%.
We're gonna have we're gonna have a publicity campaign to do no matter what.
Yeah.
And I don't think,
It didn't,
It's
a
the
publicity campaign didn't really do much in the sense of getting more than 4% of yes votes over no votes. Just to create this commission, to create the commission.
54 to, or whatever.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
51.
Where TAC is 78%.
well, there was a lot more publicity about TNAC
People
than
know what
there was about home
TNAC
rule.
is,
Or
yeah,
TNAC.
There were signs all over the
Nobody
place about
understood home
TNAC.
rule,
Yeah.
still don't.
exactly.
Except they still, they
But,
still.
but I think that makes Brian's point, is there's so much to learn, I found something, I don't like that one thing.
Right, so I voted down.
But that's why I kinda like the idea of the AMI, I don't think it's that dangerous and that incentivizing to only get rich people here, plus isn't
People don't
the
understand.
state doing something now to require low income housing or something, whether we like it or not, so.
Well, that's gonna be part of zoning,
Huh?
It went over home rule.
I know, yeah.
and actually having home rule will allow the town to do affordable housing zoning. Without us explicitly stating it.
Right, but I think the concern from there was that if their pay is tied to AMI, they won't wanna do affordable housing.
I don't think anyone's gonna understand AMI. People in this room didn't understand AMI.
We didn't know what it stood for.
I mean, yeah, we do.
I
We didn't know
don't,
what the acronym was though.
I don't think anybody is gonna be
It's
in,
only the first day.
I don't think anybody is gonna be in office long enough or care enough about
Their
only
own
bringing
pay.
in
Yeah,
rich people.
I was saying, and again, it would have to be a
For
really
their
big
trustee
shift.
pay.
I
Like,
mean, the reality is though, we have tons of new houses coming of all sorts, right? And if that's what you have to make to be able to buy a house here, we're gonna be getting a lot of rich people in here, along with our affordable housing, so I think it's probably a
We
wash.
probably
I think,
balance out.
yeah, and I think, again, I think from a fairness perspective, personally, I don't think that the town council should be getting necessarily a larger raise than the employees because of the average income of the town.
Well, but they're not, the employees don't get it based on the average income.
I know, that's my point.
So CPI
That's
could be
exactly
low,
right.
AMI increase could be high, so the
Would
Don't those
often be
two,
higher.
do they not track? Cause
Do
I
you want me
mean,
to let her in? It's Celeste,
Not necessarily. I don't know there's a
we
strong
haven't talked
correlation.
about it yet.
I don't know the answer.
but inflation tracks those things. Inflation guides those things higher. Hopefully, I mean, usually wages trail.
Here, let me see if there's a study.
wages
prices.
trail inflation.
But I feel like, I mean, Justin made a good point, like, it could go down, AMI could go down, I mean, if.
It did go down. I looked.
Exactly, and I actually like, I think that's fair, I mean, honestly, I think that's actually a bonus that, you know, their income fluctuates kind of like with the rest of us,
And it's not
during
always in
certain
something in their power to
times.
affect.
And we don't have to put a number in there.
And we don't have to, I mean, and again, I don't think, I think having a percent of AMI is less risky than putting in, say, like 1,000 and 1,500, where people may be like, whoa. I was like telling Candace, I mean, that ambiguity, which I feel like it will be ambiguous to some people, saying point whatever percent or however we do it of AMI could be in our favor or could be against us, but I feel like it's less risky than putting in like $1,000 or
I hear you, but
$1,500.
the counter argument to that is they made it all confusing intentionally to get it to pass. They're trying to confuse us.
That's true.
I think you're
Yeah.
overthinking it.
I have been in politics. I've seen this.
In this town.
Exactly.
So how could we have that, but then explain it enough that it doesn't feel confusing? It doesn't feel like we're trying to pull the wool over.
We put it
You have
in
to say
our
what the number
intent.
is. You have to say an area median income this year is this, and that times this percent means the mayor for the first term will make
This much money a month.
X much money, and you gotta say that. And now you put a number out there.
Now there's a number.
And put it in our intent.
So I think
That's separate from the.
Now, the intent, I fully agree with the intent. We should be compensating the representatives to a degree that they feel good about the representation. Even if it's not good, better than $5 an hour about the representation they get.
I mean, even the people who claim the least amount of hours, it's still like below minimum wage.
$15 an hour was the highest hourly rate I got from people who told me the hours they worked.
So what do we do? Like, where is, I mean, I'm curious where everybody in the room is right now. I feel like,
Lisa's AMI.
you know,
I'm
it's
AMI.
8:16 and I feel like we could talk about this for a very long time if we let that happen.
Next week is the public hearing. Huh?
Okay, but next
So
week.
where are
We have to have this kind of.
This
Where-
has to be wrapped up today.
How do we
I
get
think that
some?
we should decide
We're
whether or
done.
not to put it
We have
into an
one more
amendment,
round.
because
So we
that
can still change it.
kind of changes
It would
the
change,
tone.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mean on the ballot?
On the ballot as an amendment, so that the charter passes with or without it, and the biggest risk is the amended part, if it's an amendment, fails, but the charter passes, and then everyone's paid, nothing, very little,
And
until another amendment comes by,
exactly.
which,
Or they
has
can
to
change
be.
it by ordinance.
Unlikely though, right? Like that's the.
Yeah, because if we carry through current process, it would be by ordinance.
Hi, Amy.
And they did actually, since I've been here, there was a board that passed it by ordinance, and it doesn't affect any of them that are seated.
Yeah, that's.
You write it so that they cannot benefit from it, so therefore it takes the,
But it's
Political
still,
suicide out
it's
of it?
still somewhat political,
They still,
because people won't.
the mayor
agree with
said that they still
Yeah.
probably won't do it,
Well,
but they do.
they were also not here when that happened the last time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anybody who, because before they made even less, you
What was
could,
that,
it was like
2000?
$125.
I almost did it, I
Was that
almost motioned it
2012?
on my last day, but I was like.
Sorry, what, Brian?
That was that 2012 or 2013?
I think it was 12.
Was it
Yeah.
12?
When it was
I remember
increased
that.
to the.
So
Yep.
until 2012, they made 125.
It was a lot less, it was less, I don't remember, I don't
Wow.
recall, but it was less. And
Civic
it
did.
didn't take effect for anybody until
Paid civic duty.
you were newly elected.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do we want, again, do we want people who are just very, very passionate and they'll do it for free?
No.
That's,
I agree.
that's the,
Well, we
That's
talked
a
about
second Adam's
increasing the
response.
pool, and people threw out things out there like providing childcare stipends or
so-
whatever. So like,
Yeah,
well,
like-
obviously not. I'm
Candace
definitely.
was saying she couldn't be doing this.
But that's what it's
For long
supposed to be
term.
for. We can increase the pool so a single mom or a single dad can run and pay for his childcare while he's sitting at a meeting.
So
You know, like.
to Adam's point, like how do we feel about putting it in an amendment? Like what's the room?
I wanna do it in an amendment because I don't want the rest of the charter to be at risk.
I agree.
Okay, I agree with
I
that.
agree with that.
So we have
Hands up.
hands up, who supports
Amendment?
amendment, indifferent.
Yeah.
I support it,
voting
I
anyway.
don't, yeah.
That's how I felt
So
about that
like-
one. You guys made me vote.
So let's do it. I mean, like, if that's where the room is, let's,
So the current, then we wanna stick it with, so as written, ordinance can affect their own term until they're newly elected.
Just
Was she
wasn't-
gone?
No, she just stepped back in.
So you guys froze for a little while, I might have missed something.
I might have, I love it.
Rewrote
No.
the
Might have missed
You haven't,
something.
if you tuned out the last 20 minutes, you haven't missed
You
anything.
haven't
No,
missed anything.
but I lost you at the hand raising about,
Okay, yeah, we kind of were saying that we wanna do the pay by an amendment as a inline amendment, basically.
So we can't put something on a ballot.
We can,
Only the current town.
we can require them to.
Didn't we debate this already with Hillary? Like,
Yeah, she said we have,
Not
the- like,
debated.
based on what she and Brian discovered, is we have the power to put an amendment on the on the same ballot as the charter is going on
The
to.
first time they tried to pass home rule, we had a bunch of
I
stuff that
think
was
we view it
separate.
more as alternative language, it's not really an amendment,
Right.
it's, yeah.
So it's,
So it's a separate it's a separate provision you're calling out that would get a separate vote from the
Yes.
whole charter.
correct. And we have that ability to do
So the AMI
on the
is
same ballot.
And then we can give them different options, do you want it to be based on the game? Do you want it to be? Do you want it
Choose
to
your
be
own
based- Right.
Mercedes.
So as it stands now, set by ordinance, and since ordinance, we already have an ordinance on pay that would carry forward. And if they change it, it won't take effect during their current term of office. If they get reelected, they can get the benefit from it. And then we present an inline amendment or inline alternative language to change how pay is calculated. And the wording for that, we still haven't decided. What do you want? What would you consider?
Well, yeah, no, so now we discuss it, flat number adjusted by CPI, percentage of AMI.
I still like percentage of AMI.
so yeah, let's vote on that. I mean,
If we do that, can we agree that, well, I guess it's not us that has to market this, but we do need to, when this gets out to the public, we should be showing them what the calculation ends up as. Or it
Yes.
should be shown to them, how it's
Yes,
us doing
yes,
it.
I mean,
we should be transparent.
If this is what we decide and how we do it, it'll go on the presentation, so it'll be part of that public,
Okay.
so everyone will know, like, for this year, this is what that means.
Okay, so percentage of AMI.
Well, again, so I did just find that CPI is a factor in AMI, but they don't correlate totally.
Yeah,
And I guess like to circle back on what Malcolm said, like would we be using Welder Boulder?
that's true, we'd have to specify that, right?
Well, see, they already calculate,
Yeah, I
they already
think-
have CPI because of contracts, but I don't know if you guys calculate AMI or if, you
Oh, we have to
know,
pick one, right?
Julian does or something like
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, I know we get it.
that. You get
It
it?
gets it from HUD, so HUD calculates the AMI,
For, on a county basis or any
Yeah.
deeper than that?
county, is my understanding.
Well, that's
So
a
we'd
big,
have to do then average by
that's
AMI.
And
Average
again,
of all Weld and all Boulder, that's like,
you can't do that, that's not fair.
yeah.
I really
So
think
you go back to
I thought was-
CPI and then that's.
So we set a hard number adjusted by, and then say it'll go up by CPI every year.
I think that makes sense, I mean,
Or you can do
or
it as
I
a,
would
we
even
we
say
could,
CPI, I would say use the same metric that the town uses for the employees.
But then that means that if the board adjusts the metric used for raises by ordinance, that will affect their own pay. So I think if we define the method of increase, we need to be able to hard code it.
Separate.
Does the town define, yeah, I guess by ordinance as to the
Yeah.
increase?
It's part of the budget, we recommend increase and the board has control over that.
So they
So
can
if
say,
they-
oh, it's gonna increase 20%.
Well, yeah, they can say the town's pay will increase 20, like town staff, but then if we put that language in, it would indirectly affect their own pay.
Yeah, I know, I understand,
I mean, we could say
It's such
something
a small
along,
percentage of the budget that I think,
yeah, but
I'm
the
still okay
percentage
with
of the budget is not,
Didn't we
the
said
concern.
something about contracts, is that the same thing?
yeah, the CPI.
CPI.
I
But
just,
that's the thing, like if we, that's just what they use now,
But that's the adjustment, that's not the base that got
Right.
adjusted.
right,
we would still have to put in a base. And then
yeah, no, I think we have to put in the base.
So I think, yeah, like with the Weld Boulder County discrepancy in mind, I support CPI and just, especially now that it's gonna be an amendment, like, or alternate language or
Yeah,
whatever
alternate
it's called.
Okay,
Setting a number and then tying it to CPI.
I think
now,
we have to.
I think we tie it to CPI no matter what.
Right, the increases by CPI.
Right, but we have to like set a
we
starting number.
could set that number as a current factor of AMI right now,
Right.
Just pick Weld
if you
County.
Yeah.
wanted to,
I mean, at that point, we're just making up the percentage. anyway.
just to match a number, just to get a number.
Yeah, that's
But I thought, so maybe I'm confused, if we choose a county, is it all of that county that we're looking at? So if we choose Boulder
Yeah.
County, we're looking at Lafayette's
higher.
numbers, okay.
And Boulder,
And if we choose Weld County, we're gonna be looking at Greeley's
Greeley.
numbers and, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's the best option then,
Right.
because
Yeah.
that's not representative of the town
Right.
at all. So I think we have to go that direction.
Just put in a
the
number.
metric that the
and then-
town uses.
Yeah.
No, I think we say CPI.
But that is what they use, that's what you
I know, but I think we have to
We
say
have to
CPI.
definitely, yeah,
We need
you have
to
to,
specify CPI for exactly the reason that Ash said that they could change the way that they
Cause
do.
yeah, the
Right.
board is who defines how the town contractor pay increases are set, so they could change it by ordinance and change their pay.
And every
and
now and
change their
again,
pace.
places have rolling upgrades and stuff because of inflation and.
Boulder has
But CPI
language
should
about
cover it.
CPI, just for reference.
As what?
Boulder, my inspiration for when we first brought this up was Boulder's, they set the pay in 1990 and it increased by CPI.
Did they say
That's
just
right.
CPI or CPI
I'll
Boulder,
find
Denver
it.
Boulder, cause I,
Usually it's.
I think
when
it's
I
like
looked
Denver
it up,
Boulder.
that language slightly changed to something like CPI of Denver, Boulder, Lakewood, or something like, so that there has been a change there.
It's, yeah, it's an area CPI or whatever.
Whatever, it's just, it's generic enough
Yeah,
language or
CPI.
that
I
it's
would
not-
have to go back and check with Kendra, but it's our area, it's the
And it's the
northern,
Boulder,
Denver,
Denver,
yeah.
SMI, no, I mean,
Yeah.
it's CPI,
And
but it's a Boulder,
CPI for Boulder, Denver, Greeley, it's how the market's broken up.
MSA, that's what it was.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
It's a statistical area.
Metro
Okay.
statistical area.
So now we need a base.
So now we need the base, and we had this discussion.
So what did we have previously for
We
the?
voted on this a long time
It
ago.
was, I think it was 2015,
I
Yeah.
think so, that's.
that's what we landed on back then.
and I think we wanted to bring it back down a notch, especially after reading other charters and how other towns are paying, so.
Yeah, I think it was what, 800, 1200, 1,000, 1,500, and then
15,
It
2000.
was-
15,000. I think that's what it
And
was.
then, well, you were talking about bringing it down a notch. Fort Collins, not that we're Fort Collins,
Just
they're paying
drove it crazy.
what, 4,000 a month, something like that?
Yeah, they went up to like 52,000 a year or something
So it's pretty much a,
for mayor.
Should move to Fort Collins.
I like
And
the-
run for
and
office.
run, and get elected.
I like the middle range.
Yeah, I still like our original numbers.
10 and 15, or 1,000 and 15.
1,015.
Let's do some math.
We're at 8:30. I think we're gonna need to continue through because we have a lot to get through.
We do.
So let's take a short break here, 10 minutes. People can think about it while they're taking a break, and then we can come back and decide on it. Alright, so short break, 10 minutes. Do we know what the CPI is, like, what have been the recent CPI values? What have been the recent CPI values?
I think this year we're at like 8%,
Yeah, it's
just
been
over 8.
crazy.
This year is crazy.
Yeah, typically it's been 2%.
Yeah, so it's kind of tied to like treasury rates and stuff,
It's pretty much,
correlated.
well, it's based off of Bureau of
I don't wanna carry this.
the Bureau of
Go.
Labor Statistics, and it's on cost of living. And there's some really fun Planet Money podcasts about, they call grocery stores and they say, how much is butter? And then they put that in a sheet and they know how much inflation went up.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
core inflation and
it's not an easy number to come up
energy
with.
and.
Yeah, it's.
Is the price of butter like statistically relevant to like?
Well, it's just, they do examples, they're like, we want unsalted butter that's 1 pound, that they pretty much lay it out, they may even do by brand.
Really?
So, and that's just one of the things, they'll
Just one
go
of the things
ask
they
for a
look
bag
at.
of cereal, or they'll ask for a pound of broccoli. Like these are the prices, and then they call grocery stores, they call local stores, it's a huge amount of work. That's how we get these numbers,
That's cool. I had no idea.
there's a lot that goes into that number. Which is
My
why the
husband
federal
is sending me
government.
votes.
So, amendment 70.
Be sure husband like pays
CPI.
attention. My husband doesn't even have a clue what I'm doing, nor does he care. Like,
Oh, no, he's at work right now sending me votes that he wants to
We
buy.
did at lunch today over at the rec center.
Wants to buy a vote.
So speaking
Votes,
of
yeah, votes.
balancing
You're
on-
not voting to buy
a vote?
How exciting.
I mean, we have one, and I told him we could get a new one. But once my car is paid off, which happens soon, I mean, finding them, which are
Exciting.
Do you run down because we haven't talked about it yet, or what?
Oh, I haven't,
Money on
I was in
anything,
another
like-
meeting.
How are you?
I was gonna ask you if you talked about
Gotta
it.
make
No,
good
not
memories,
yet. I
and
think
like, we can't afford to go on vacation, so we don't, not do that, or we have a boat now, but it's just not really
Just not what
kid
you
friendly. Like they could bounce off.
Sure, you're very happy.
It's a ski boat.
Look at you,
That
so
would
limber.
be,
Oh, cool.
you know,
Probably
like we use
way
something.
more limber than me.
Walking
Like,
upstairs,
better.
walking downstairs.
They just don't fall out of it.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Nice and cheap.
When do you get to ski again?
Maybe I'll run for office.
Or maybe.
Buy another boat.
Right? We get more snow, it looks like it's
So-
getting dry like they said it was gonna.
Yeah, getting back to if you care about the rates for Alan, if you don't care, it's okay too.
They do, yeah.
So it was roughly, I think
think
they were, right now, I think Comcast for phone, cable, internet, which is 1.2
I grew up with them and
gig,
they like.
and security,
Cool to own in the
it's like
Midwest and.
Yes.
70 or something a month.
Everything does,
For
yes.
1 gig internet, less TV channels, no security, it was like 300 a month for Alan.
Whoa.
So it's a significant difference, so
You know,
I'm gonna call him.
Driving today for the whole day, so I'm like,
is that
today was one of those days I had to drive to Aurora.
Brother, like your shirt
and
thing.
then Centennial, and then.
I like
It could be, I mean, I've had Comcast forever.
My daughter-in-law buys me.
At least he was good weather.
It could be that your rates are much higher.
Yeah, his son was out,
I was-
yeah, it was good for that.
typically when they
Yeah.
come in.
And they're all
the
in this
competition
loose
would
Yeah.
their rates
wash
were
and
going up.
wear.
Oh, no, this I've been, it's been going up steadily, but it's, I thought it was absurdly high. Alan's was much higher.
Listening to music,
I'm gonna call Alan and say,
being paid,
let's go
that
break
was,
up.
yeah, still exhausting.
I didn't
Nothing to do
don't even think about it.
Instructors do it, I think it all together, like whenever
Perfect.
We started
Sorry.
a project over this export control stuff.
I'll let you know when I find out.
It's not actually good, but I love it. Even though everyone's at work,
Right, yeah.
it's like one of those, they should be cognizant of it, because technically.
This has gotten, export control, but
And
no longer
I mean,
compliant.
you fuel your body with like a hamburger
Security.
probably, right?
Yeah.
Like fries.
I'm from,
Cybersecurity has
it's a good
gotten
point,
so
I
appreciated.
used to cross country ski,
This,
don't do that anymore.
this computer,
I have really.
this
I'm a
registration
paddleboarder.
number that makes sure that anytime you.
So it's almost my
I don't want you to
season.
have that either.
Huh?
Trying to get it.
It does, yeah.
Because as soon as I boot it back up again, to reinstall.
No, summer stuff, I like my season, I kinda hibernate in the winter,
And it will reinstall.
which is funny, cause I'm from Michigan.
I'm not gonna put it on my list, check.
Yeah, so there is a way to get it off, but they have to do it.
Did you guys know
I
that my
found
grandparents
the area to do
were
it,
young
but
in
it's
the
locked
50s,
and
they
it's.
And we get a
that's
pleasure
not
notes
how
amount.
to get it out.
We have like
dance?
inches a year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because
how you feel comfortable property.
they're.
Oh, and this thing right here, I don't know if you've
So,
ever
older,
seen.
like where all the white kids
I
went,
remember-
Lafayette was where all like
Request.
the.
But you
Actual,
can't be an
like,
admin on
30
the computer
degrees
until you say,
below
I'd like
zero.
admin access.
It's eerie, but
Temperature.
yeah, like all the
Yes,
roads.
and
I don't think they've had anything like
They
that
would
in a long
Is this
time.
like pseudo making?
They
It's pseudo, you can't do pseudo with it,
Interesting.
the builder
So,
can't
like,
edit,
Do you have other like?
real files, you can't even install software, so I just say, you know, I wanna create some software. And all it does is record what I wrote, and it's giving me admin.
Oh, okay.
But I'm like, and that's,
Solo.
then why have this? Like, all I got is like 3 buttons, and then now
Unfortunately, I got
I'm
it.
4.
And you're only
Yeah.
moving
I have a
Oh,
step,
really?
Yeah, then I
I
got.
have a stepbrother whose dad was
Boundary wise.
Hispanic
Oh,
from
you do?
Juarez, Mexico.
Awesome.
But
Yeah. Have you been to Upper
his family
Michigan?
came over from Spain,
Gotta go.
so I have one stepbrother who was dark haired, dark eyed, and his biological brother was blue eyed and blonde.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I really recommend Mark.
My brother
Yeah.
has beautiful
My
And like there's so
Austin
many vegan burgers, so like you have like your
hair.
classy dining and stuff at
And then I
Westside,
look
but
like
then
this.
you have picture
I feel like
books, you can go.
I remember
That's
in
how it was.
college, I got
When I got
homework
hired,
from grade
you
three,
can go
minority or whatever, and we walked in, and
Waterfall
everybody like
hike.
looked at me and I was like,
Yeah.
Dad, stand by.
I'm not making
this up.
That's what I should have gone to, tourism for the UP.
I bet you're not regretting that.
And then we got bought by NetApp, which is a 10,000 person
Yeah, I spent
company.
the,
I will
better
tonight.
part of my youth trying to.
I'll be like that on the day.
Google Docs and Google
Yeah.
presentations.
Where are you from?
More
Everything was
melatonin.
Microsoft and everything.
Born in Colorado in Alamosa, but we lived absolutely next door when I was like 2 months old.
I get sleep in my
Thank you.
We're watching one of my sons and daughter-in-laws
But it's
are
still
in the house
stable.
tonight, and they're
Yeah.
starting their Bernie Doodle with us for the weekend.
All been
It's
downhill.
been getting worse and worse and worse for.
One Friday like this, one Friday like that, like you wouldn't even.
Oh, wow.
Like,
I've been everywhere,
and he's just now a year and a couple months.
not on here. I think this
Oh, yeah.
is.
He's super smart, so he thinks you're stupid.
That's a lot of
And our dog doesn't,
And my girl.
our dog tolerates him.
I love it here too, I was just like, dog, I'm gonna go to Mark, my first.
It's been a fun weekend.
Too much energy.
Yeah, too much energy.
She's so.
Oh, yeah, you're
You
done with
get
that.
your interesting liquor, and you get your snow, and then it goes away.
Yeah, so I don't even think we need
You're
to.
like, you're
Like,
like,
if we had 100 votes, we would cut over.
Yeah.
Like the Colorado Sun is the worst.
you guys like your special.
I don't have.
Because I took notes on things.
You drink Kirkland hard seltzer.
It's even worse than like.
It also made me the same way.
My mom actually got a
I felt like people ignored me.
Sometimes get headaches.
Driving.
Oh, yeah.
I get my hangover starts at like 4 years. So this is good. That's not what this is supposed to happen.
They are, I mean.
Oh, Chuck, really? Yeah, the Dale's family.
Yeah.
It's not Dale's family, it's
That's your place, yeah.
It's been my favorite lately.
Here's the thing,
That is
here,
a
it's
thick
right,
beer.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I like it.
It's a Scotch ale.
Yeah, I live on
I don't wanna sit down.
There was a beer that we found at like the wall.
We need the sit stands at home.
We sit all day long, all of us.
I have one at home and I've actually been
The slogan was, it's not water
to
that
stay
tastes
lately.
It is the water that is it.
Yeah, pretty much, but that was,
I'm so excited about
Yeah,
my
that's
it's always fun when we found a 6 of those around the party.
We had Genesee, female.
Okay.
School on
My
Fleet
life,
North.
it's always been my life.
I found it here in my college. Roommate.
Oh, she didn't put out any plates, did she?
Fine.
Thank you for.
So like
Punching.
every time we're at each other's house, that second can is
I know, I'm
in the
so careful with
refrigerator,
my
because
Pringles.
neither of us wanted it.
Hey, that's what they get for putting a really good microphone in here.
That's right. I was dipping them in my water.
Ooh.
Gross.
There was a crack.
Bring your Coke.
They're my Coke. Sprinkle Coke.
Alright, I think we're back at 10 minutes.
Thanks.
I hope
Smells
people
better
had a
than
chance
last
to
time,
figure out what they wanna use.
Oh.
Oh, we're supposed to think?
Oh.
I'm just thinking break. Yeah, same.
Hillary, are you back?
Yeah, I never left.
Okay. Excellent.
Actually, if we're using alternative language, could we do A and B? A or B?
That's what I was, yeah.
You mean put all of them down and whatever one gets
Or
the
two.
most yes.
Choose your language.
Why not?
I would do 3 options. One is our current option.
I would, cause they already have the current option.
I know, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
By
Yes,
ordinance.
yeah. But I would put maybe 2 options.
How do those ballot questions
That would, actually, that would have to be a second ballot question,
Yeah, cause I
because it
don't
would
think,
be yes or no,
it was like,
change the language.
would you
And
wanna
then it would
change?
be,
What?
if you it would be a little confusing.
Or you just
No.
say, do you change it to this? Yes
Oh,
or no?
that's
Do you
true.
change it
Yeah,
to this?
yeah,
Yes
that's
or no?
true. Yeah, you're right.
Whoever
That
gets
would-
the most yeses
Yeah,
wins.
exactly.
Yeah.
If they write tie.
Well, we'll cross that bridge.
But that doesn't give people an option to stick with what we currently have.
Yes,
No,
it's
no.
We
one
vote no to
vote.
both of them.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, cause the current option would be just as the charter's written, which is set by ordinance.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, if we had two ballot, we could give, I think putting too many questions,
Try and keep it simple.
Okay.
I would prefer to.
I mean, we, you know, people who know more about it, I think could make that decision.
What would be the two things that you would propose though, out of curiosity?
1,000, 1,500, and 800, 1,200.
Oh, different numbers.
Different numbers.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
I mean, if we can't decide on one, if we can't come to consensus, that would be the next.
I think we just make a decision if
Well, I think,
just one.
so from our first, when we were up in that room, we had, the majority voted for the 1,000, 1,500.
Is that still true?
That's still where I am.
I guess,
Put it to a vote.
I'll just give you some stats.
Yeah, I wanna hear Ben's stats.
So at
stats.
1,000 monthly pay, the minimum hours worked is 20, and that's $50 an hour. So if they're doing the bare minimum, they're getting paid reasonably well. And at 1,500 for the mayor, at 100 hours worked, that's $15 an hour. But he also said he generally works close, or 40 is about the minimum, and that's $37 an hour. So they're, in my mind, reasonably compensated.
And to note that allows them to have that pay basically to hire babysitters and childcare during meetings and stuff like that.
And I really think the 20-hour was understated.
Yeah, that's like the bare minimum.
I think
That's
Andrew
the
was
smallest
understating
number.
his
Yes.
amount of hours worked.
The other two people, we got 30 hours for two other trustees.
Yeah.
Which is then $33 an hour.
I don't like looking at it like hourly pay, I mean, I get it, but,
I mean, I wouldn't break it down like that in a thing,
alright.
but just,
Well, even for my mind's sake, right?
I like it, I think things like paying for childcare are,
Yeah,
is
it's a
important.
good equivalent to that because especially if they go into late nights, you gotta pay more when to have someone who's old enough to be able to look after kids past midnight,
So
because some of the meetings go that far.
So if the language is changed, by ordinance now, it includes the additional perks. If that language is changed to these set dollar amounts, do those perks go away? Or additionals, not perks, but you know, the
You mean
rec,
things-
Additional benefits.
additional benefits.
rec center and that's pretty much the only,
You can get, you can pay into the town's healthcare, you can.
but that's like Cobra, you're not really getting.
Agreed, no, I'm
Yeah.
not saying, but it gives you the opportunity to buy into it.
Can they do that?
But I'm not even saying it's a real
Don't
benefit,
mention
what I'm
that.
saying is that if,
In the charter, like
Well,
don't preclude it, don't include it.
I think just leave it, yeah.
Just don't
It's
discuss the
already set by
additional benefits,
statute.
let them,
It's done by ordinance.
but it's done by ordinance, so if you take
Right.
that language out that it's done by ordinance and replace it with this language, then
Then you've taken those benefits away.
you've taken those benefits away.
so are we
Are they
taking that
separated?
part away? Cause that
It
was
was
separate.
a
Let's get
substitution,
mine.
it was a substitution of language, it's basically,
We're substituting that part as well.
Still say you
I think
Yeah,
we should just
because-
rewrite that entire clause.
But it's,
How are those secondary benefits currently assigned? Is it in the ordinance?
Spelled out in the code.
it's spelled out in code.
So what if we don't talk about those benefits either way in the charter? I mean, what if we,
Or we
Just
say-
pointing it out.
I'm curious,
Yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah,
I like
yeah.
that, I'm
Or you
curious, 'cause I
say-
don't know,
I'm sorry.
no, I'm done.
Or you say the monetary compensation shall be X, benefits shall be by ordinance. Cause right now we only have one line that just says such compensation as the town council shall by ordinance prescribe.
Then how about something, maybe Hillary could advise us, but how about something like I'm trying to say,
So here,
an ordinance has to be accepted, but then they have to vote on an ordinance being accepted, which changes their pay, and then that's the thing we're avoiding.
I would just split the compensation into two parts.
so this is Boulder, City of Boulder, their charter, Article 2, Section 7, compensation. After they define their annual, they say council members, based on dates, may elect to receive benefits under the same terms and conditions that are available to full-time city employees, including without limitation, health, vision, dental, and insurance. Compensation shall be averaged over the calendar year and paid on the same schedule as city employees or such other schedule as determined by the city manager, which kind of defines how those, it pretty much gives the benefit of employees.
So what, but they don't have, that they would have like the full,
Yeah, that's,
like
Yeah,
compensated.
401k and all
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
which I don't think.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really the,
Could we take the language of the current ordinance and put it in the default draft and then edit that with the inline, what do we call that, adjusted language to,
For the secondary benefits?
yeah, so we basically take whatever's currently now in the ordinance of the code and we write it into the charter. And that's, keep the same, and then you do a language adjustment that changes the pay. Only that part of what we wrote into it.
But then if the charter passes but the amendments don't, that means it removes the power of the council to change those secondary benefits by ordinance.
Yeah.
Cause it would be hard set in the code or in the charter.
Yeah. It is in Boulder.
There's one line that you could, or two lines. Each member of the Board of Trustees shall be eligible to participate in the town's medical and dental insurance program, but shall be required to pay 100% of the cost of the participation. Cause there's like 7 for each section, but, so that's the first one, and then each member of the Board of Trustees shall receive an annual family membership to the town community center at no cost.
I would just put those two in as 211.
Right.
You're locking that into the
Five.
Yeah,
code.
I was gonna say,
We'll probably have another rec center, we might have a museum, we might
yeah,
have.
putting that in that specific of language in
Then
the
they can amend the
charter
charter.
would like make, yeah, I mean, how could we
How about something like,
not
Sorry.
exclude it? No, I'm just saying, how could we like keep the possibility for that, but leave it
we
flexible?
can set, so how much does the health plan cost if they were to pay 100% of it?
It depends on what they choose.
That's
We,
all
I
good stuff.
mean, we have a couple of different ones. We have a high deductible, it's much less expensive.
Depends on whether they get a family
Family,
plan,
yeah.
individual, or
But would it end up being like 1,000 or 1,500 a month or something like that, or
I
less than
don't-
that?
I don't-
family plan is even more than that.
I would think more than that,
So, I mean, as we've said before, though, no one really takes advantage of that. So maybe we can say something like the council can set secondary benefits such as health insurance or rec center membership, I don't know if we have to put that in there, whose value shall not exceed their monthly pay. So that gives them some flexibility in adding like secondary benefits, like if the town does set up a town hall childcare center, they would be able to take part as part of their benefits, and they could set those by ordinance as long as the value doesn't exceed their monthly pay.
but
So I guess
there
I'm
are some complications,
confused.
go on.
No, you were talking first.
There are some, like, my insurance company, my health insurance pays for my rec center membership,
Your
so it's
what?
free to me,
For your rec center
my
membership?
Medicare Advantage plan,
Okay.
and most do. So it's gonna be hard to put values on some of those things.
No, because like it's 100%, like the value of a rec center membership is set by the rec center. Just because your insurance pays it, it's still, the value of the membership is
Yeah,
still
but-
that.
So our
penalizing people, but that's.
current benefits or non-monetary compensation is set by who? Who makes that decision?
Still ordinance.
It's by ordinance now.
Yeah.
So if we had alternate language that said, like, the mayor and town and council members shall receive such non-monetary compensation as the town, as set by ordinance, like, why don't we just like make that the alternate language and call it non-monetary or whatever word we wanna call it to make it clear that we're speaking about benefits.
Cause
Bells
then,
and whistles.
cause the right to buy into the town's insurance plan, that's non-monetary, it's just cause they still have to pay for it. So like, what would be the potential of abuse, I guess?
Yeah, I think we're overthinking it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if they decide it by ordinance now, why can't they decide by ordinance even if we are setting what their pay is separately of that? Why can't they still decide their benefits by
We
ordinance?
can call it salary versus non-salary benefits or
Well,
whatever.
we don't have to, I think Chelsea's onto something, we just said compensation, I don't know what happens to the ordinance. There is an ordinance that exists that says what their compensation is and what other benefits they get, but the charter was just adopted, for example, and now it sets their compensation, so what happens to that ordinance, is it null and void? Or is just a portion of it null and void?
Hillary?
Look to the eye in the sky.
She's muted.
I'm
So
guessing it's,
anything that's in conflict with the charter would be rendered I don't know, no longer effective. So the charter would control over a conflicting ordinance.
But is
Right,
it-
but if we set the pay, if we set the monetary, if we set monetary pay in the charter, does it override the portions of ordinance that set non-monetary benefits like?
It doesn't have to unless the charter says that the compensation shall be only,
Right.
if language in the charter makes it apparent that the non-monetary benefits are not permitted, then yeah.
So if she waved her lawyer wand, it'll be okay.
So basically it can line item modify an existing ordinance?
We can line item override existing.
I mean, and it doesn't basically, I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't completely void the entire ordinance.
But I would
That's why I
suggest.
was asking,
Strikes.
why the whole ordinance or just the part?
It just strikes.
It's severable, that's a term, that's a term from contract, so a severability clause, yeah, so the portion that is in conflict with the charter would be severed.
But why don't we just say in the list of things that the council has to do during transition is to update that ordinance?
No.
No, because it may not pass. Well, transition, yeah, you're right, in the well, I think what Chelsea said is probably the way to do it, it's basically monetary compensation
Yeah,
is
that's what I
this,
was thinking too.
additional benefits set by ordinance, additional non-monetary benefits set by ordinance. Leave it at that.
But then in
Don't
the-
even, and then in the,
In the notes to
Yeah.
they asked for notes saying, what are things that you think we should be doing as part of transition? I would just include that as one of the things that doesn't fall through the
It'd be
cracks.
some housekeeping they could do to clean
Right.
it up.
That's all I'm suggesting.
Okay, so then back to the monetary portion of this.
So
to a vote.
I guess just to clarify, we're all in agreement that we're gonna do the amendment line, like the alternate language for compensation?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You're not,
I'm overruled, but I don't like it.
what do you want for, again,
You wanna put it in there?
I think it is worth being in a charter, but I know I'm in the minority. So, I understand.
Yeah.
All the arguments for doing it as an amendment, I mean, they're valid, but I think we're changing things. And I'm really concerned that people are gonna vote no because they see a number. And the council won't be compensated.
that's why we're saying we're gonna put it,
I'm saying that this town is,
Well, just all of Colorado.
yeah, Colorado,
right,
in my experience of living here for.
But it's better to have that piece voted down versus the entire charter.
Maybe,
At least
Well, I mean,
yeah.
you're saying that's what you're scared of, is they're gonna see a number.
My concern is they'll see a number, they'll vote no, and the council will not be paid a reasonable number and will get bad candidates.
Oh, legit.
Well, the other,
Because
the
we're
next,
reducing our candidate pools with the district, a lot of the things I've brought up a lot, it's just, but everyone else is on board, so.
where do we do a referendum?
Yeah, to force the pay change from the
Yeah.
citizen side.
Yeah. Which is actually similar in some ways, but it'll bring it back to attention.
So you're saying if like it's an amendment or what,
If
we're
it
calling
fails.
alternate language and it gets turned down, then we put it to referendum at a,
Yeah, in the
Future.
future.
We as private citizens put it as.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
So you're saying you'd rather the number be in the charter and the charter just get voted down, so at least.
I'm saying, I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds terrible.
No, I'm saying, I mean, it makes sense,
That is
'cause
what I'm saying.
it is, and that's fine, because I mean, what's the sense of separating and making districts if we can't get enough candidates to fill these districts and run for the positions
We're
and
getting
yes.
candidates that won't be great for the town.
It's not just about compensation. Compensation is a way to incentivize it, but our desire for representation at a more local level for each of those individuals, that I think was more powerful of a statement even than money. The money is just, we're gonna try to help out with the pain that they're going through now, anyone's going through. I don't think we're gonna, we lose a candidate pool, or we have a shorter candidate pool. I think we have a bigger candidate pool.
I think we have a different candidate.
And it will just help to bring out the right people if we can get the compensation increased.
I think if we do a really good marketing strategy and they realize how little they're being compensated right now, most people will pick one or the other, just vote yes on.
Well, I thought we decided
It
just
can
to do
still be
one.
voted no. That's my concern, is that it can still be voted no, and they won't be paid a lot. We're not gonna get
But if they
candidates.
vote the entire charter down, it'll
Well,
still
then
be
it'll
voted
be-
no, and they'll still be paid.
Yeah.
Then it'll be up to the
understand
people who are
that.
elected to raise their tip pay. They're just gonna have to put on their big
That's my thought, is like
panties.
at least they'll still be able to increase their pay
But-
for the next
People.
Cycle.
term.
And it may be
Then yet
that
another
it may require a citizens push to give them cover. But we can cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, I think,
You meant, yeah, like just down the line.
I think we have a majority going in a certain direction.
I do. so.
Yeah, I think that's,
Okay,
I think
so
we're
let's,
the consensus is to do the amendment, that's not
Yeah.
my opinion.
it's ties though.
okay, so then the numbers. We wanted to set a number
So I-
and tie it to CPI.
I just asked Amy to send out the numbers of surrounding, not even all surrounding, but just other towns in Colorado, so we can review that while we're.
Did we get that recently, I saw that recently somewhere.
I don't know if we got it recently, I
It was
know we
back
got it
there.
back in December,
Yeah.
but I just found it and asked Amy to send it back out, just so it's, everybody can find it easily.
Did it come through, and I'm not updated yet?
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry, I
Make
was
sure I get everybody in there.
just making
Sorry.
sure I wasn't the,
Everybody except Ben gets it.
Let's see.
Alright, just came in.
You didn't attach anything, actually, what I just forwarded.
You gotta go through your old conversation.
Yeah, sorry, it's from your original email, I'm not Fred, I'm sorry. I was trying to hurry.
So I sent it out to you originally?
Yeah, you sent it out to us originally on
Not in December.
You
on
click
December
show by
26th
conversations.
or 27.
Okay, I just forwarded you. Oh, this one.
72.
Oh, no, I have it here. Do you want me to send it to you to send
Yep,
out?
I got it.
Yeah, so 7,200 a year, 4,800 a year
Got it.
for Alamosa.
Well, I guess Adam, your point at one point, I think we talked about population, but you're saying at some point it's still work.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter the population so much.
That's
Maybe
what-
if you're a lot bigger, if you're Denver, obviously, it's a different beast, but.
Exactly.
What did Louisville do?
1,200 and 1,000, almost. It's a little bit less than 1,200 and 1,000 each.
So weird.
And then they do reimbursement for expenses. This is the document that Amy sent out on December 27th.
Yeah, that's what you just sent out.
The PDF or the CML compensation,
The CML compensation.
that's actually different.
It's different.
Wait, so Boulder has a lower compensation for
Boulder does it by meeting, up to
Meeting.
52 meetings a year.
right, but it's lower for mayor than it is for councilors. So it's $136 a meeting versus $500 a meeting.
That doesn't make sense.
It's not.
Compensation, click that button.
Mayor makes more.
Yeah.
A little bit more, I think, or
Yeah, I think
certainly not less.
that one might just be a typo here then.
Or maybe the mayor goes to a lot more meetings.
This compensation also says that council members and mayor shall receive $100 per meeting, and that was in 1990. For 52
It
meetings.
just changed. 2021, 2022.
Breckenridge has, by month, 800.
So if you look at Louisville in that one, it's like 500 and 250.
Mm-hmm.
But on CML, it's different.
Castle Rock 950, 650.
I don't know which of these numbers is more right, but they're all kind of low.
How big is Centennial?
I wonder if that's total compensation,
64,000.
like the total per year? This could be. Cause it's saying Pueblo is 12,000 a month for the mayor, which I'll become mayor of Pueblo.
And it does figure that.
Well, that's a stronger system.
Oh, I guess that's fair.
It also figures that Louisville is our number.
It could have been adjusted.
Yeah,
That's
972 and 1164.
Yeah, they're showing, they had some base and it's been adjusted
Yeah,
since
no.
then.
Yeah, so all of this came from CML, both of them, you realize, yeah. This is what,
I don't know, or
I don't know what we intend to do with this.
It was
still
it was
say-
mostly, I think just mostly to refresh, see what other towns are doing while we're discussing numbers. That's all. I mean, I don't think we need to read every single town.
Yeah.
Just,
I was just looking at our local area, Lafayette, Longmont,
yeah, just meant to be kind of a
Woodsville.
supporting document while we discuss.
So I know last time we voted on this, people were like relatively sure of their opinions. Has that shifted a lot in the room as far as like what people believe about compensation?
Yeah, I
mean,
think so, cause they sent out this document after we had that conversation, and then once we were able to do a little bit more research, I'm no longer leaning towards 1,000 and 1,500 anymore, maybe.
I guess what I'm asking is, do people in the room feel prepared to like vote on where they currently stand or openly discuss, like each person say, just so we get somewhere?
We're going to public hearing next week, so.
Yeah, so we have to
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
put
make a
something
decision.
down.
Yeah.
Are we gonna bust out the dry erase board again, or what?
I mean, I can start with just like scanning through all of this. I think putting something down like at when I was looking at the AMI adjusted number, I was looking at like 1,000 and 750 based on the percentages. And yeah, that's a little lower than we were considering, but if we peg it to the CPI for year over year increases, I think that'll at least keep it relative, like it'll keep the inflationary value of the money the same. But I know that's lower than we had discussed before, but before we hadn't talked about an increase, right? So,
Well, we originally had some numbers that we had agreed on that
yeah,
didn't make it in anywhere, cause we were gonna revisit.
it was 1,500 and 1,000, I think is what we had.
It was, yeah.
Should we write this down? I should not be the person to write down.
Let's watch you erase your stuff.
No, I feel terrible.
You can use the other side.
No.
Too late.
Oh, erasing it all.
I don't remember
Never
it.
see it again. Alright,
It's
so
on the
what
recording.
numbers did you just
Sorry,
say?
it's on the
Adam? What
recording.
was it
So
before?
previously we had just said 1,500 and 1,000. Before we, yeah,
And I guess one thing to point out about 1,500 to 1,000 is that it changes the ratio, because our current ratio is 3 to 5. Like council members make
Yeah.
3 times whatever, anyway, the mayor would
Right.
make 5, so like the same ratio would be 900 and 1,500. If we were staying with the same comparative, like, you know, council members make this to the mayor making this. Just wanted to point that out, I don't have an opinion on it.
I do.
There is an extra that they get. They get 25 plus a $25 a meeting, up to a maximum of 100 for trustees and 200 for the mayor. So actually, the mayor makes 700 a month, and the trustees make 600 a month.
Currently,
But I think that the
So
mayor
it's
puts
not
in so
3
many
and
more
5.
hours than the
the
trustees.
mayor, you said 700 and 600?
With
That
what-
close?
No, 400, sorry, my
I was
bad.
gonna say, okay.
In
Yeah,
Erie?
Okay.
When did that change?
2 years ago? I mean, that's what's in, that's in the ordinance.
Since 2012.
Yeah, the ordinance that was passed in.
So it's currently
Well,
700.
I
You
never
never
got
got
paid
it.
more than the base. Was I supposed to submit paperwork?
407, 407.
Nobody submitted paperwork. I took
Statute of limitations. is
2
over.
conferences I went to and I submitted expenses, other than that.
800 to 1,400.
So we'll just take the
Double
work of submitting paperwork out, right?
You know, double, not that you
Yes,
need to write it up there, I'm
please
just
do.
saying, if we,
Well, so
We should.
it's 700 and 400, and you, what's the base?
The base is 5 and 3.
5 and 3, okay, up to.
Up to 7 and 4, so then there's the ratio, 7 to 4.
yeah, that's what I was trying to communicate, that
And you
3 and 5. I
multiply
just didn't
that
want
up to, multiply it times 3 for just another column.
Don't make me do math up.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
2,100 and 1,200.
Wait,
Yeah,
right.
So what if we, so
I
if
think
we,
doing-
if we
Ben
do it,
said it, but he's so funny.
2,100 and 1,200 is multiplying it by 3.
and then what if we multiply it by 2 for another column, cause she's
It's
gonna.
14 and 8.
800.
So 800, yeah,
14
400,
and 8.
what'd you say, 1,400 and 800. We'll be doubling our current,
There
I
you
could
go.
see going with that.
And then
I think that one's
Maybe-
reasonable.
and removing the per meeting.
So
So you
we're,
have
so
to-
it's actually, I don't know, I think it's somewhat palatable to say we're doubling their current pay and setting it to CPI, so that
Yeah.
it won't.
Mm-hmm.
And that would mean that they would not be able to change their own pay,
Okay, when was the last time they changed it to
2012.
12?
It
So it's
it was-
been 13 years?
Well, when was that?
10.
It took effect after the 2012.
11 years, whatever,
No, it actually
2012.
took, it was, the ordinance was 2011.
So if we do it, if it was 2012, if we multiply the CPI between then and now,
I got you, Bob, give me a minute.
yeah, that's,
Ben,
that would give us a reasonable base.
no,
Math?
I think we're.
No, there's
13,
this,
depending on when
the
you-
LDL has a
Yeah,
CPI
yeah.
calculator.
Look at Ben go.
Well, I do this for my niece, cause it's fun.
Your niece adjusts things by
She
CPI.
gets her year, I owe her a birthday check.
Adjusted for inflation.
Your niece is smart.
She doesn't know what's happening yet.
Would you adopt me?
It's not that much, don't worry. It's mainly so I can send her spreadsheets.
That's pretty cool.
So 700 in 2012,
And 4. Well, that's
through January.
Considering everything, I'd say it's more than 50.
So $700 in 2012 is $925 today.
I'm surprised.
if it had been adjusted for
Yeah, I know,
3
I'm
years.
surprised it's that low.
And $400 is
That doesn't make sense to me.
$525.
That doesn't make
What'd you
sense
say?
to me.
So
The 9 was?
$925 and $425. So that's just if we,
What did we think they were making?
500 and 300.
Or yes.
That's what,
Well, that's what they are making,
That's the
unless they
base.
submit paperwork.
Yeah.
What you're gonna do when you get home.
sending you some forms.
For the reimbursement.
Statute of limitations is running out.
I think the
You don't know until you
Bureau of
try.
Labor- Bureau of
Let's put
Labor
that in the
regulations.
charter.
Statute of limitations, okay?
I don't think that we can ethically adjust for CPI when we were not adjusted for CPI. We should take what, I mean, it's good to know, but the 7 to 4 is the base, I guess, if you submit paperwork. But it is what's possible right now, and so jumping that by 2 gets you to the 14 and 8.
Yeah, I know inflation.
Which is kind of in line, I mean, we were saying 1,500 and 1,000, so it's just slightly less than we were saying, but it's still on the same ratio and is only a double.
And we're removing the per meeting component.
Thankfully, because for everyone, for staff and for counselors,
Can I add one more?
please.
1.5 as a multiplier, so it would be 1050 and 600.
Could you break that 4-digit ride?
So that was kind of, I guess, I think I had been looking at that as one of the, per the AMI calculation, it was like 0.8 and 0.5%
15.
of the AMI would get us to about 1,600.
I'm just gonna say, I think if you go on the lower end and more reasonable end, lower than that.
Yeah.
You're gonna likely get more yes votes.
I agree.
There's also the strategy of doing 3 of them, where you put the one in the middle that you want, and you put a really high one and a really low one.
And you said that out
I feel like we could probably
loud.
like mark out the
I don't think people are
2,100
gonna
or
watch this
1,200.
later.
I don't think anybody's gonna go for that high.
Some
I
people are
don't
watching,
feel like that's
you know.
probably on the table for us right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking closer now to 12 and 8 or something, I don't know.
So what do we do now?
Well, let's just,
Hold on.
Let's
Bob-
vote.
Oh, wait, Bob, what did you say?
like 12 and 8 or something.
Where'd that come from?
Just looking at the numbers, and
Feels
maybe
right.
it's 9, I don't know.
No, well, if it was 12, I think it would be 12 and 7.
Or 7, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if we wanna keep the ratio,
Yeah, but
there's nothing, we're just keeping the ratio to keep the ratio, right?
Yeah, I know.
Necessary reason to.
Yeah, I mean, there really isn't, based on like, how many more hours did the mayor say he puts in versus the highest
He
trustee?
said his minimum was 40 up to 100,
Probably
and
close to
the
double.
other trustees were saying between 30 and 50. So
So high,
It's
it would
basically
be up to
double.
double at the high end.
So it would be 12 and 6, but 6 seems really low to me, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
For a trustee.
For trustees,
so we have 4 options now. What if we just go around the room and say which option we like and see what has the most tallies, or if we need to pick the top 2 and vote again, or
maybe,
you know,
yeah, it's
rank choice.
rank choice.
we'll rank choice
Yeah,
it.
start tallying.
Nice.
I'm gonna go for, I think 12 and 7. I think those numbers look decent.
That's fair.
Can I suggest you
Yeah.
might consider,
Ma'am, no.
Go ahead, Sarah. We'll come back. Bob,
Yes, thank you.
12 and 7.
14 and 8.
I was debating between those two.
Yeah, 14-8.
get my steps in today.
10-6.
Where the hell is 10
The
cents?
first
Where
one.
the heck is it? Sorry.
Candace, you vote.
14-8.
Candace, what's your vote?
Probably 10-6.
Okay.
Oh, man, guys, I'm leaning towards the 12-7.
You think so?
I'm between the 12-7 and the 10-6.
No, instant runoff.
Yeah, so Candace and Brian, you
Losers.
you reallocate your vote to one of the other 2.
Oh, that's,
It's 12-7.
Okay.
There it is.
Winner.
Chicken dinner.
Sorry, Lisa.
What was Lisa's?
She wanted to
She
do the
didn't give us, I
AMI,
looked it up.
and I
didn't
think
give us a
she said
number,
the 0.8, right? She said 0.8 or,
Which would have been,
I think that would have been like 1,000 based on current AMI. So
either way, even if she voted for the other one, we would still wouldn't have 5 on that one, so.
Okay, somebody write it down, 12-7,
12-7.
delete it.
So that will be our alternative language. We'll keep current methodology, and based on the phrasing, do we have to put something specific, Hillary, if we wanna allow them the ability to set non-monetary benefits by ordinance?
Yeah. So, and I couldn't see the numbers, so I don't know what you all landed on.
12 and 7, 1,200, 700,
Okay.
and then adjust by CPI. I guess, do we have to put a time frame? Just,
You'd have to put the
Yearly.
year
yeah,
starting at 2023,
starting 2024.
whatever year, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Whatever year it
The
is.
year the charter
Wait.
is.
Wouldn't it start in 2025?
Yeah, that's right, after the first full year.
So that's kind of the transition. The
The charter oh, you're right, the charter
takes effect immediately. Does the board get paid?
I think so, yeah.
They should,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, just wanted to
I
make
think
sure.
so.
I think it's when the charter.
Yeah,
takes
cause I
effect.
don't think that's a transition phrasing, that's not a transition period, so it would be,
Well, they're
It would-
immediately on
the new pay,
certification, they become council members.
right, and they get the
And
new
then they
pay.
get paid as a council member.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking more of along the lines of the first year of the CPI increase, cause when do you guys do it for contractors?
January.
Yeah, when the
So their
contracts
first,
renew.
basically their first paycheck.
Whenever the contract renews, yeah. Which,
So we could just say this,
Yeah.
this value at 2024, because that's when they become, or 2025, because that's,
No, 2024,
2024.
cause the election, the vote
they'll
would
be
be,
certified in
January
December
2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
of 24.
I don't think we have to put when it's effect, because as soon as it's certified, whenever that happens, they become counselors, they get the new pay. And then I was just talking about the increase, like how do we stage that, when does that take effect?
Well, I think
December
we need to,
23.
if we're doing CPI, we need to define the year.
Right.
That it starts.
Yeah, but it gets certified December 23, takes effect January 24.
Of January, so
No.
it's,
It takes effect on certification.
Okay, yeah, but roughly January, I mean, it'll be sometime in December or early January, right? Or,
unless it's contested, it would probably be certified by
November, late November.
mid-November.
okay, fine.
You said you
Still, I don't
normally
think
do
there'll be much
CPI
difference, is what
in
I'm saying.
January for staff,
Typically for contracts.
so then January of 25, like, would be the logical,
would be the first time it
Yes.
would,
that we would, yeah,
It would
we would,
increase.
but we're setting the value at $1,200 at 2024.
mhm.
For like, yeah, the rest of 2023 and through the year of 2024.
I'm kind of hammering this point, just because of the way Boulder defines their, this amendment shall become effective January 1, 1990, on the compensation. So they just define a day and a year of when they start getting paid.
But that was an amendment
Yeah.
after the fact.
This one will become effective when, if it passes at the same time the charter passes.
Because it's alternate language, right? Is that the difference, like?
There's no time
It's
difference.
alternate language, it's not a change as much as a,
Well, we could say, and we'll reset January 1st of each year based on CPI.
If we do that, I think there's a chance that they get an increase January 1.
immediately.
2 months late, a month later.
Yeah. So we could
What
do that
happened?
starting 2025.
All right, yeah, we can say starting in
Okay with
2025.
Well, I think, yeah, that would be an effective like 10% increase based on inflation this year.
Yeah. So yeah, but I agree with Chelsea, that we can say January 1st, 2025 starts annual increases based on CPI.
What's easiest for the town?
I mean, you're doing it anyways in January, right?
Well, it's different, it happens in conjunction with a contract being renewed.
Mhm.
This would just be a change in payroll, so it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm following your all's logic, it makes sense that it would start in 2025 in January, and the first pay period in January was when we
Cause that would also be the first
would.
period after an election, under the charter.
Right.
So,
And when staff if we get a cost of living adjustment, it typically takes place in the first pay period in January.
okay.
First pay check in January.
So I would say
So you're making those adjustments generally anyways, okay.
so my proposal would be, let's set the pay in section 2, like for the alternative language. For the charter as written, we'll leave 211 as is. And then for the alternative language that we'll propose to put on the ballot at the same time, we wanna set the pay at 1,200 and 700 for mayor and trustees or councilors respectively. And then peg increases, yearly increases to CPI that would take, beginning January 1st, 2025. And then,
That's it.
Non-monetary.
and then remove the ability for them to set their pay themselves, but reserve them the right to set non-monetary benefits
Right.
by ordinance.
Perfect.
Follow that, Hillary?
Do we wanna say in
Yeah,
transition that,
Thank you.
do we wanna say in transition that non-monetary benefits currently in effect will remain in effect, or is that just
No,
by
because
default?
the transition says current ordinances will
Yeah,
carry
yeah,
through,
so-
so that'll be fine.
That's-
Okay,
So one thing to confirm, the current language of 211 as it's in this current draft, that's sort of option A, and then option B is the one that you just outlined.
yes,
And it's really just,
yeah.
211.1 is the only, that one subparagraph, the other
Okay.
two will stay.
Okay, gotcha.
And when you say option A and B, Hillary, option A is staying in the charter and option B is going on the ballot next to approval of the charter.
Yeah, I don't know how that actually leaks, but the draft would include the current 211 language, and then somehow we would show that there was an alternative for 211.
Right. Okay,
Does that mean also 211.2 would need to be removed in that same language swap?
I don't think so,
Yeah.
because that's a prohibition against, I think that prohibition generally needs to stay against increasing your own compensation.
like even like amendments or I guess,
Non-monetary compensation is still compensation.
yeah, so it would still, they still couldn't change
Yeah.
their own non-monetary
So,
compensation.
If there were an ordinance to add another kind of benefit, then that wouldn't apply until the next term.
Okay,
Cool.
cool.
And yeah, so yeah, it would really just be replacing 211.1 with the language about hard number plus increases pegged to CPI, starting in 2025. Okay, I think we are good there.
Recall.
Yay, congratulations, everyone.
I know this one's probably gonna take a while too, so see what happens.
Is that one, let's see, emergency powers, that was just moved.
Recall's not even on there, we're just addressing the public comment and the point that was brought up that we're separating into districts, so having 25% would mean more numbers, and we wanted to revisit it based on that.
Yeah, I think we're there, we can talk about it now, it's about that.
I didn't see anything before it, so.
Yeah, so like looking at raw numbers, 25% of a district as we've got the sizing would still be like 2,500 people based on
I
current.
thought it was of the number of people who voted.
For that office, yes.
But even 16,000, cause if we take it, like when we're doing in odd years, you said 16,000 people voted, right?
No, 16,000, let me pull it up.
It should be-
16,000 people had ballots sent to them, only like 8,000 odd people.
It should be the amount of people that voted for that seat.
For that season,
Well,
yes.
right.
Yeah.
That's what we have it set
And
to.
that can be different than the number of ballots returned, because
Yes.
people don't necessarily vote
For
for every seat or every issue.
Yeah, cause I know for our election, not everyone voted for 9 commissioners.
Right,
So just,
or even voted on home.
so in 2022, there were 7,927 votes cast for mayor. I think this is what this is because
So say
mayor's
8,000.
easy. So I divided that by 3, that's 2,600. And then if we do that times
25% of that would get you
25,
650. So that would require 650 in a single district.
650 signatures
So that's your
If that's at large.
threshold to get a recall.
to get something on the ballot.
And we want it to be top and not It's impossible.
And 650, yeah.
I mean, we don't want people trying to recall everything all the time.
They can't do it twice. If they do it twice, they have to get 50%, right?
Yeah,
So
the
it's almost a
second one,
guaranteed recall if you get the signatures.
basically, if you try once, fail, and then you try to do it again, it's basically guaranteed if you can actually get it on the ballot because you had 50% sign the petition.
So what number is good? Do we want us to get 25%? I think the suggested 5% is a little low
It's low.
personally.
What's
Yeah,
the Colorado
it's too low.
statute say? Is it 10?
I can look.
That I don't recall.
I'll look while you guys keep talking.
She doesn't recall. Sorry.
I liked it.
$25%.
That is the default?
Okay, the signature threshold to place a recall question on the ballot for a state or county elected official, 20% of total votes cast in the last
That's
preceding
state or
election.
county.
Yeah,
That's for state.
We're municipal.
we're statutory municipality. That would be different.
Judges, preparation.
You wanna look at 3111.
Yeah, I'm looking.
3111?
31. There it is.
So Ben, you mentioned earlier you wanted to bring this back up. I'm curious if you had an opinion on it or if you just wanted to make sure we discussed
Just
it.
wanted to make sure we discussed it.
Okay.
That's really not it. Surface water.
This, you wanted to make sure we discussed this, recalls?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even, that was valid.
Yeah, in
It
relation
is.
to
I just wanted to make sure that's what we were talking about.
I'm not sure if I read this comment or remember, was the concern that 25 is too high or too low?
Too high.
Too high.
Too high. But 25 is lower, it sounds like, than the statutory, like, default currently.
Well,
It's
we're
currently
trying to get,
statutory.
That's what we're finding.
Oh, okay, I thought we had found it.
So it's 314503.
314503?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there it is, officer recall.
Did you wanna read the comment?
Yeah, I got rid of my email, I'm like,
I
I'm
just wanted
just
an
looking at
excuse
this
to do
thing and I
more
wanna.
things in Excel.
Huh?
Chelsea.
What?
I just want an excuse to do more things in Excel.
I love it, here for it.
31 what?
4503, here it is, but I don't see,
I don't see the threshold, yeah.
they want me to log in.
Oh, sorry, it's not 503.
I was gonna say.
It is 314. It's 25.
25%.
So it's the same.
Okay.
25% of the entire vote cast for all candidates for that particular office
Same number.
divided by the number of seats. Which, actually, we probably should add that. That's not in the current language.
What does that mean divided by the?
That means that would only
Means
really
two.
play if there's two,
Thank you.
both seats are up at the same
Didn't see
election.
that or didn't open it or
Right.
something.
We've designed it for them not to be, but there are situations
there
where they
can
could
be.
be. Okay.
So like if someone was elected when two seats were up, then to recall them, you would need only 12.5% of the votes cast for
Mhm.
Oh,
in that district.
But it's only if you voted for two at the same time. Or if,
yeah.
we've
Yeah.
designed it to not be there, but there, the special election or
Okay.
vacancy situation may put two people up
Yeah.
to be elected at the same time. And that would be a lower recall threshold or petition threshold to do a recall of one of them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's 25, which is in line with state and municipal and statutory and everything else, and I'm fine with that.
So just to read to the room, do we know who's good with 25 out of who's here?
Yeah, and I read through the email, I think the concern was more about needing too many for the smaller districts.
Yeah. Cause it
We're
does
doing it
become.
based on percent of the people
Yeah,
who voted for that district.
It's proportional, so I
Yeah,
feel like
I think
it's still
25 is
fair.
fine. If that's what the Colorado statute is, I think 25 is
And it
fine.
is like, we are doing for the number of votes cast, so it's like 25% of the active voters
Right,
of that district.
Right.
So,
Not 16,000 people.
yeah, not 25%
So
of
just
registered
for
voters.
example, if we split it out by districts, 25%, you need 660 signatures for a magical district that's exactly a third
Exactly
from
the
our
third.
last election.
Which is what we,
Which,
and we guessed 650 before,
Seats
so.
were up. I mean,
Which is 330.
Yeah.
But what about the mayor? I think I'm reading a paragraph that says, 16,000 votes were cast, 25% of that is 4,200 signatures to recall the mayor. And it looks like the issue being raised is that's
So
too
then you
high.
need almost 2,000 signatures to recall a mayor.
but you have a larger pool to pull those from.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's still a lot of signatures.
Yeah, that's still a really high bar.
but also it's like to override an election.
Well, it's to get a vote to recall a mayor. It's just to put something on a ballot. You're
Yeah.
not necessarily overriding it until.
I would actually be in favor of leaving it at 25 and then removing the piece that says you can't, if you do it again a second time, it has to be at 50.
Removing that?
So keeping it at 25 no
Keeping it
matter
at
what.
25 and just saying you can
Even
recall
for
somebody as many
subsequent.
times as you want, but you gotta hit the 25.
What's the rationale for that? Like, what's your concern with the 50?
Well, if we're thinking
For a
25 is
second
too high, then 50 is definitely too high.
But that's after it's
right?
already failed
Yeah, that's
one
if,
time.
Right, so but my thought process is that if you have somebody in there that's doing not great things and you attempt to recall and you don't get it, and then they do something really, really bad, then you're stuck. You have to get, that's way more signatures to get.
So it's kind of a hedge against like
How do we-
continuously.
Have a
So I can see like
compromise
that
25 and
person
33.
feel like they could get away with
33.
even
Right.
more.
Empowered to.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
now, you know, the
Yes,
50%.
we've seen
Yeah.
politicians
I
do
get it,
that
yeah.
in
That makes
much
sense.
larger positions, is
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
Okay,
No,
so
that makes
how about-
sense. I hadn't even thought about that.
Candace, how about a compromise 25 and 33?
For the second election?
Yeah.
Or for the second recall, I mean?
The second recall would be 33, not 50.
I'm just saying, leave it at 25,
I know.
I mean, people are feeling like 25 is maybe too high, is that?
Right, and I'm saying maybe make it a little higher, but not all the way to 50.
what about 3/8?
It'd be 8.375. Split the difference.
He's in spreadsheet heaven over there.
Can we all agree that we, at least on the initial recall, the first recall, feel that 25 is fair?
As long as the wording we have, and from what I remember it is, it's set to 25% of the votes cast for that
For
position.
that position,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, so people are,
But
everybody, I don't wanna
it-
exclude,
Oh, sorry.
no, I'm done.
Now, if, with the Colorado state statute, if two were up, that number then is half of,
Halved.
okay,
And I think, do we wanna add that phrasing in there?
probably should, just for
Yeah. I
clarification.
would think so.
That's what Hillary's divide by the number of seats.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I was just rereading the,
Yeah,
We don't have to, but if we wanna add that.
I think it makes sense.
I think it makes sense.
Because right now it's saying you add everything, so it's, if there happens to be two elections, or two people up because of a vacancy or whatever, you're doubling the number of votes that the guy or woman got.
Right.
And so I could see dividing by the number of seats.
Okay.
I do remember when we discussed this originally in length, we wanted it to be a little bit tougher. And the proposed comment of 5% is definitely too low.
Cause what was that? That would be like 200.
800 and something.
What's the amount of time that they have to collect the signatures again? What did we say?
They've got, like, once they file the petition, they have 60 days? Or was it 30 days? town clerk should be reviewed
30
days, yeah. So they present the petition for
30
recall
days.
to the town clerk. Town clerk tells them if it's sufficient. And then once the town clerk deems it sufficient, they can start gathering signatures. And they have until, 30 days.
30 days.
After the town clerk says it's good to go, they have 30 days to submit it back to the clerk.
Well, I got like 25 signatures in about 2 days, so they can do it.
I think I got mine in a day or something, just walking down the street, so.
So,
I don't
So
know.
we said
It's a
Guys.
lot less controversial.
I know,
True.
I know.
Very
It's
good point.
insane. Is anybody leaning towards reducing it? Cause I kind of am, but I respect the process.
but are we dividing by the number of seats in the election?
I think we're dividing by numbers.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
So that already cuts
It's
it.
the number of votes.
Potentially cuts it,
Yeah.
Divided by the number of seats.
yeah, so I would,
But I mean,
I'm okay with that.
in nominal flow, that would never happen because we've got only.
Normally it would be one.
Yeah,
Hopefully, yeah.
it would just be like, if we
And
had-
30 days is a very short time to get that many signatures. I'm just saying, if it's normally
I
gonna
don't think
be-
so, I think if there's a recall
I
election,
think that,
you will have a lot of people pushing for it. So
yeah,
it's not like you have one person collecting signatures, you probably have 10 people collecting signatures.
Yeah, so I think that's the balance you wanna strike, is like one person who has a vendetta trying to just get signatures
Right,
versus there being a legitimate reason.
Agree.
but what if somebody really, really sucks? Well,
Then
then
why?
everybody will
Then
go to the
everyone
party.
knows everybody sucks.
Right,
So then it'll be simple, so
yeah.
I think 25 and Canley for the second, well, are we finished with the first one then, or?
I feel
I
like,
just don't see anything different about Erie than the rest of Colorado.
right, like.
But that's
why
that's
do
the
we need
question,
to,
like, is there an argument to be made that the 25% threshold is prohibitive if it's never worked? Like, how often have recall elections been called?
Here,
Oh, they tried to recall Polis recently.
Right.
Did they reach the 25%?
I don't remember voting on that,
I
so.
don't there
So
was,
that's-
No, they
there
fell
was a
short.
recall
They fell short a lot,
election in
by a lot.
2003 here,
Here, and it actually made it to the ballot.
I believe so.
It did, yeah, it was, I think it was 2 people.
I can't find the records of it other than
That
It,
happened.
that it happened.
yeah, it's,
It's the weirdest thing.
do I say the names?
They
Wasn't
were, it's public record.
Barbara Connors.
Yeah, Barbara
Yeah.
Connors.
She was the mayor and the mayor pro tem were recalled. And they won the recall.
Or they weren't recalled.
They were not but they were
But there was a lot fewer voters then.
correct.
Okay.
I don't know that, I feel like it's our place to change, to set the precedent, or not precedent, to set towns inside Colorado different from Colorado.
I agree.
I mean, I might be willing to change it if this was done elsewhere or to match others, but like, and I don't want a bunch of facts of other towns like, somewhere else that did it, but like the fact that Colorado and statutory rules say 25% is good enough for me.
Agreed.
Feel the same.
Okay. Anyone else feel, Bob, Ben,
My numbers, I'm happy.
huh?
I'm good.
25 is good,
Consensus.
Candace?
I'm good with it.
Good.
Okay. I guess then the follow-on question that Candace had was, I don't see that increase in statute, like for the second or subsequent one.
Yeah, what is statute for the secondary one? Is that a?
It doesn't say.
There isn't,
There's
it's
no-
always 25.
Is that something that, what, Eagle?
Yeah, I think it was built into some of the charters we looked at, and that's why we pulled that over.
Actually, like, since Candace explained it, that makes sense to me. Like, if we have it at 25 and it fails, like, I would hate to see someone like take advantage of their position knowing it would take a 50% to get them again. Yeah, I feel
Hey
like.
guys, it is in statute, it's in 505.
No.
So after one recall petition, no further petition shall be filed unless that petition has signatures equal to 50%.
Yeah, it is. Oh,
Okay, so let's leave
well, in
it.
that case, I go either way.
I'm okay leaving it.
I like the argument, can't argue with statute, right?
If that's
That's what's in the
our
statute,
rationale for
yeah.
going with the first number, I mean,
I just really appreciate you guys discussing it, thank you.
Or they can try to recall the statute.
Referendum statute.
Yeah. I think we're good, let's move on, maybe.
So-
Please.
Honestly,
25 and 50 then?
Yeah, leave it.
No change.
Bedtime, yeah.
Did the Wi-Fi go out?
I had it earlier go out on me. Is yours out
Yeah,
now?
the internet went out
That's been
and I had
finicky.
to,
I'm
I'm on
I had to
the
restart it.
TOE boardroom guest right now, I don't
when
even see
is the
other-
presentation? Is it Tuesday? Are we supposed to be back Tuesday or is it gonna be on Wednesday?
For which?
I don't know, presenting this
To
to
the
them.
board, it's Tuesday,
Tuesday.
25th.
April 25th.
That's at the end of it, yeah.
So we've got,
This
so
Thursday,
next Thursday, we've got our public hearing.
Mhm.
Required by law, public hearing.
We require, it'll be the noticed, public hearing, all of that. If we get a lot of public comment, we have the following meeting to make revisions. Then on the 20th, we have to meet to finalize and sign,
Okay,
and then the 25th would
That's
be the
good.
presentation, yeah.
And before we break in for the evening, there are a couple things I wanna touch on those, just to make clarification marks.
Was there, I was kind of cycling through, but I don't know if there were any more consequential decisions or review items downstream of
Yes.
here.
I think we had to we still need to figure out what we're
Transition.
doing with transition and our two trustees whose terms are not up.
Right. That was the other one. Taxation, no, town finances borrowing, that was okay. Were you tracking on any other decisions that had to be made, Hillary?
There are a few things for you guys to confirm, but I don't think they need to be talked about right now.
Okay. Let's see, in miscellaneous provisions, there was never mind, the eminent domain stuff, she just provided supporting information from statute and constitution, so. I guess in 1311, Hillary, you can strike the statements of intent phrasing.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
she was all over that.
She was happy with that one. Okay, so then into 14 with the continuation of elected officials. So the way it's written now, with the 1403 continuation, end in April will extend until basically January 2025. The ones that would end in April would extend until January 2027, certification of the election following 2026 election. And then, yeah, the mayor would be back up for re-election next November again. And then the first time that the districts would be in effect would be the 2024 election.
Where are you?
1403,
Okay.
so that was just 4.
It's all in her head.
And then, 5 says, I think in 5 we also have to specify, or somewhere in here we have to specify that once districts are drawn, the 2 continuing trustees would get placed into the district that they live in.
So I'll bring up this point again. Those trustees were not elected to that district.
Right.
They were elected by the town, so they're not representing the district, in my opinion. So should they represent the district?
They're, because the
Just
council,
because they live there?
Yes.
What would be,
Yeah.
what would be an alternative, do you think?
I don't,
Do a full fresh board.
Yeah.
But, okay, so but with
And I understand the difficulties with it. I do understand that there's a lot to learn. Hopefully, the trustees want to run as counselors. But I'm concerned that forcing a representative into a district that the district didn't vote for kind of defeats the whole purpose of the district.
It's just, in
Removes
essence,
the
it's delaying.
opportunity
It's
for that
only for
district
one.
to.
It's for 2 years.
Well, it's for 2 years, but that's, I mean,
but yeah, it's like
we're looking to
remove,
write something that's, hopefully around 50 years.
but it's removed,
It's
like,
just
I
a
mean, this
small-
is the transition section
It's-
though, so it's specifically for this transition period. But I see what you're saying, cause it basically removes the voice of that district.
District.
Basically-
Especially if they end up in the same district.
It's unlikely based on where they live, but it's possible still. Cause we're not drawing
I
districts.
feel like it's a little unfair to those districts, cause they're not getting the opportunity to vote for their representative like all the other districts are.
I agree, that's where I'm at too.
No,
I mean, I understand the pain of trying to bring a bunch of new people in and bring them up to speed. Hopefully, the
But
trustees will.
it would be a one-time pain, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
It's a,
if I had an
It
opportunity,
could be a
I'd vote for,
significant pain during the transition.
especially
I
during
mean,
this
as
thing.
incumbents, they do have an advantage with that,
But with
right?
the
So,
campaigning and.
yeah, so, I mean, and I feel like there are probably at least a couple that would like to run again, I hope.
We'd hope,
We
but
don't-
we can't ask
We don't
them.
know, and yeah, we can't ask them to make that decision now, and
I mean, we asked them if they're willing to extend their terms, they said that, yes
We're
or
all
that.
willing to extend their terms, which I'm glad about, cause that was the sticking point.
yes.
So at one point, if you do have an election where everybody's running, then you're having to shorten 2 terms.
Yeah.
That's the countervailing.
Right.
I think that's still
3
better
terms.
though,
3
just for the
terms would be shortened.
representation.
Well, so
All
the person who gets the second, the runner-up would get the two-year
Right.
term, right? And the
Right.
person who gets the most would get the 4-year term
Yeah.
for that district.
Yeah.
Do we think there's anybody who has been elected that didn't win their local area?
We have
Just
no
curious.
idea. We have
Yeah,
don't think there's any
no
way
to
to-
know
I don't even know where some of their areas are,
Yeah,
honestly, like I
cause we
don't know where
weren't,
it
we
is.
didn't care about it. We
I know,
were
but-
voting at large for all of them.
Yeah, but we still have numbers.
But no, you don't know where people vote, it's all anonymous.
Since we don't know, you can't, voter records don't say who they voted for.
As
Yeah.
they shouldn't.
All they know,
No, it's just the
it's
number
just
per-
that they voted,
In that district, yeah.
and so,
Yeah, you can, the smallest subdivision we have is by state precinct, I think. And that's only for the state level.
I mean, I
elections.
lived by him and I didn't vote for him.
Neither did I. No, I could go either way with this. If we do shorten their terms, maybe those terms aren't considered a term for them, and they could go 2 more times.
Well, we talked about that, well, yeah.
Well, the mayor has a 2-year term, but
Yeah, but
they
that
signed
was
up for a
his
2-year.
But they
Term.
turn, yeah, since we
These
cut
guys are
them,
getting short.
they're getting
shortened
shortened,
stick,
so
sure.
it just doesn't count as their first term.
I think that's fair.
That's
I'm
fair.
fine with that.
Go to a different timeline.
Term counts start upon adoption of the charter, right?
We
No,
said no.
No, because the
We
ones
said
carry over,
Who carries over?
Everybody
Anyone
that's
with
fulfilled
that-
a full term.
everyone who's done a full term,
Oh, full terms carry over.
Yeah.
full terms carry.
So
So
basically,
mayor,
yeah, the 5
trustee
were,
Laughlin,
Yeah.
Harrison, I can't.
Right,
It doesn't,
You get the idea.
yeah,
but yeah, so like, no, actually just 4 of them then, cause Dan's doesn't count, cause
Right,
his.
Dan's
Dan's
wouldn't
would not
count.
count.
So it would be 4 of them who served their full term would count as a full term as for the purposes of consecutive term limits.
Okay,
I feel like that's fair.
Any cut short or as an appointment replacement would not.
but then, Bear and Sawash, if they ran again and won, that would be their first term,
Yeah.
correct,
because they're getting cut short.
they're getting cut short, if that's the way
I think
commission's
that's,
gonna
I
go
think
with
that's
it.
fair.
So are we leaning towards dissolving the council and doing a full slate election November 2024?
I am.
I am as well.
It makes the most sense and it keeps it equitable for the voters. We're worried about the voters, we're not worried about.
Sorry, Malcolm.
You guys
Yeah.
have planned for one.
You're the commission.
I'm worried about the town. Now, I wish I had a crystal ball and would say all these people are gonna run, and so we'll have experience. But I think particularly during a transition period where people are learning new things anyway, compounding it with a lot of new people is a concern to me.
I mean, based on that, like we're getting at least 5 new people regardless. That's already up for election, right? And they can feasibly all lose if they run for re-election, and we have 5 new people anyways. And the 2 who are continuing on, they're 2 of the most junior anyways. So it's like how much, yeah, there would be some continuation, but it's still gonna be a huge onboarding for a lot of people.
You know, I feel like that's a perfectly valid concern, but I also am more concerned about fairness and the districts getting to vote for a person.
For the
I mean,
districts.
I think that both matter, but to me, like, the equity in that process takes precedence.
I agree, but then I think of like, it's only 2 years, it's just the
Yeah.
the short
It's a transition.
transition period, it's not like you get no representation forever. So I don't know, I don't feel strongly about it
Yeah.
either way, to be honest with you.
2 years, we've already agreed a lot can happen, the population's gonna increase a lot, whatever, so
I'm in favor of whatever majority wants, I just
I
don't.
mean, I'm in a similar place, but I am worried. About that we already have a transition coming in. And I really don't think 5 people are going to be new, is my guess, but we'll see.
I mean, yeah, but
then they'll be there.
yeah, so there will be someone.
But
It's just we're gambling on there being some previous candidates or previous trustees running and getting elected. And that's kind of the gamble, right?
And at
And
least
is
now
that-
they get to make that choice instead of.
And is
being pushed
that,
into
the question then is that gamble worth making sure that every single district gets to choose their new representatives under this new system?
And I'm also trying to keep out in my head the specific people.
Yeah.
Because that wouldn't be fair.
I mean,
They
yeah,
were
I'm
elected.
just looking at names or not even names, just representatives. And it's just, I think
I'm
it's,
not worried about elected officials.
yeah.
I'm worried
Personally, I feel
about-
like it's a fair gamble to make, cause I think you convinced me with I hadn't been thinking about it from the point of view that you're basically removing the voice, you could remove the voice of an entire district for, 2 years.
Well,
if we
and
roll them into the
And
same
in
district.
theory, if they did end up in the same district, then that following election, that district would have 2 open seats. So it
Yeah.
would throw things off a little bit, not insanely, and eventually it would even
Well,
out,
that's
but.
even worse, because now the district didn't get to pick either of their candidates. They might as well, if we wanna keep them on, there should be at large,
That's
the
the thing,
district
yeah,
doesn't
it does
get any
complicate things if we
representation.
don't wanna. But then like, even if they are at large, you still have to remove those from the candidate pool, those 2 positions from the list of positions open for election, from the coming election. So even if they do get assigned at large, there's still 2 positions somewhere in 2 districts that don't get to be voted on.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just more simple to start fresh.
Rip off the Band-Aid.
Alright. Few people said they were not feeling strongly one way or the other. But I'm gonna say, we have to have a vote from everyone, but who's in favor of a hard cutoff?
It's fair.
And I think, yeah, Lisa's vote wouldn't have adjusted that too much, so
No, we would,
it was
It would
7
still be
to
6 to 3.
still
6 and
upvoted.
2.
And I'm lukewarm about it anyway,
Yeah, I
but
know, it's really- that was-
I'm it's the transition, right, but I understand the
It's a
clean
one-time
cut.
thing. Okay,
But I do think that we should not count their current term as a term.
Yes,
Okay.
I don't think that would be
I
fair.
agree with that.
that's fair. So.
For those that are cut.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, for the
Yes.
2 that are cut short, I don't think that those should count. We should be able
Do we
to-
have the
And
wording
those
in
2
here
are-
for completed terms counting as a term for consecutive effects?
Yeah, we do, and so I'm pretty sure we did. And those 2 are both first term,
Yes, I believe
So-
that's correct.
I
Yes.
just wanted to verify that,
Yes.
They are.
I thought so, but
Okay, so yeah, 1410, current terms of elected officials. Oh, that's repeat from what was in,
yeah, 1403.
yeah, so there's some overlap between 1403 and 1410.
Yeah, I think her suggestion was that we cut 1410.
Does your watch tell you to
I
say
think
mine keeps on?
1410-4 is the one that deals with term limits.
Didn't we have term limits somewhere else? Cause I'm not actually getting a search term.
Yeah, there should be a term
Yeah.
limits under elected.
There is a general term limit, it is, let me
Probably
get,
two now.
It should be in 2, yeah.
it's 2.02.
Okay.
Or not. Sorry, my.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
It's 202 sub 4. So terms are not consecutive, so no elected mayor or council member shall serve more than 2 consecutive terms in one office.
Okay, so if
And
we, sorry, go ahead.
No appointed member counts.
It doesn't apply to the transition we're talking about.
Sorry, what is that, what did you say, the last thing?
The last thing was no appointed term counts.
Okay, so yeah, I think we need to add a provision in 14 that says terms served as trustees, completed terms served as trust under the Board of Trustees shall count towards the consecutive term limit. And I think that covers it, because that would count the 2-year mayor term and the 4-year trustee terms. But any of the shorter trustee terms would not count.
They weren't
And
completed.
appointed.
That's fair.
And
And
appointed.
appointed.
But just
Dang.
like, I think if we just have that phrasing that any completed,
Yeah,
No,
no, I
you're
think
right, you're
he's
you're
just
spot
saying,
on,
Yeah,
just
it would-
following your,
so yeah, that would
Yes.
count for Dan.
correct,
perfect.
love it.
So the 3 that don't.
Yeah, 3 that would not, that their terms would not count towards the term limits.
Perfect.
Are we good with that, Hillary?
Yeah, I've got that. I have a question about 1410 while we're there.
1410, okay.
Related to the compensation issue. So 1410-1 has language about requiring an ordinance. Do you want to keep that in as part of the built-in language and then it goes away if the alternative is selected?
No, we don't want that in.
No, I think we'd want to strike it because the consideration there was we don't want them to commit political suicide by setting their own pay.
Okay, so it goes away entirely.
Yes, I think regardless, that goes away. I think 1410, like you said here, 1410 and 1403 have a lot of overlap. So we probably want to consolidate those in some way.
Yeah, I was just asking specifically about the compensation ordinance requirement.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
1410-1 we want to strike based on the discussion we
Okay,
had.
yeah, and I'll reconcile the rest of them.
Okay. Yeah. And I think I scanned over her suggestions on moving sections around. Did anyone, I felt like they were fine with how.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, all of your suggested moves make sense, Hillary, and previous like section 12 and section 8, all of those.
Look
So-
over your shoulder now.
So yeah, I think cleaning up 14 based on what we just discussed would be fine. Are we, I think that was it, right?
I have one item.
Go ahead.
I think in elections, Article 3, we should add method of election and define it as first past the post, if we're gonna keep using it.
So that if there is an amendment, it can be, well, can we set the method, can we say something like the method of election shall be set by ordinance?
I think we decided we didn't wanna do that.
Yeah, you don't wanna,
Okay.
I think it's a matter, you wanna make it a little bit harder than that,
I
to
want
change it around.
the town to vote to adjust the charter to say this is
To
how
go
we're
to
performing
ranges.
elections.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you've heard me talk about ranked choice voting a lot. I'm gonna try to get an amendment on the charter in the future to do it.
As soon as we can, yeah.
That's something I wanna do, but I wanna make it clear of, that's kind of my reasoning. There's.
But why do we need to state it? The first past the post one.
To-
So that it can be
to-
changed?
Just to define the election, right now, it's not defined on how we elect, we just do the default, I guess, from the state statutes, so.
Which is, I wonder if
Way to be on the open.
the current language allows
Mine has
them to put a ranked choice question to the electorate.
Well,
So, can I just jump in with this? So 302 of the charter now defers to Colorado municipal election laws as amended. So if those are amended to allow alternative methods, then that would be permitted.
So then under that provision, like the Colorado, or the council
Can just
would be
approve
able
it.
to pose like ballot questions and measures that would use ranked choice voting.
Yeah,
Whereas if you put it in explicitly, they
Then
remove,
it
you remove
precludes
their
it
power to do
without
that.
But it also, I don't know if it precludes you from running a campaign to adjust the charter to put in ranked choice voting.
You can always do a referendum.
We can require them, yeah, we can require them via an amendment to do all elections now, or all general ballot votes shall be ranked choice.
We as citizens, after the
Citizens,
fact, can
yes.
do a referendum,
But
yes.
as it's currently written, we can't, like, the council can do ranked choice. Amy, the TV is about to go to sleep.
Oh dear.
So is Sarah.
Me too.
How do we make it not go to sleep?
Just do some, like, volume up and volume down, I think,
Okay.
just any operation it said. Okay, so then if we leave the language as written, it allows them that flexibility as long as that flexibility is allowed under Colorado state statute.
And then if some action is not taken or something is not moving fast enough, citizens can do something about it. But putting it in removes that flexibility of the council to just do the right thing when the right time happens.
Okay.
Cause
I didn't read
you,
3.2, that's
huh?
What did you say, Ben?
I didn't really read 3.2, but I guess that kind of defines how elections are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those black box, the municipal election.
Like copy
laws.
paste
Yeah.
reference.
Well, referencing the
Yes,
C
import by
Colorado
reference.
municipal code,
Okay.
whatever it is.
So
I'm
I
gonna
think
drop mine.
this is as amended by Hillary after this meeting. This will be the charter that we present for the public hearing.
For the hearing, yes.
Everyone good with everything we've got so far?
Except Roman numerals.
You wanna go back?
Oh my God, Brian, I thought you were
They're going
serious.
outside.
I think we should put it in hieroglyphics, but.
Oh, that would be
Vote
pretty
to
cool.
vote Brian. Readability numbers, meh. Okay. So everyone good with this as amended today?
Yes.
Perfect. Hillary, do you want me to still go through all of the changes or are you good? Because you.
no.
I don't think any of us want you to go through it.
Okay. Then you had a couple of things you wanted to.
I have Hillary prepared a script for the public hearing, which is a formal public hearing. I just wanna confirm that we want to keep, standard public hearings in the town of Erie are similar to public comment in that each speaker is only limited to 3 minutes. Do you wanna keep that as well?
3 minutes once,
Yep.
so the way we've been doing it is they can do 3 minutes twice.
Well, that's
Right, but this is a formal public hearing, so each person gets, you weren't required to have public comment at every meeting, so you guys have given quite a bit of opportunity publicly. So anyway, that's the first thing. Hillary mentioned you could extend it to 5. I don't know if you want to.
I think 3 is.
I think 3 is good.
They should get their point across in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
They should come prepared if they wanna, or send a piece in, I've had that available too.
And then the last question is, the final meeting on April 20th happens to fall on a day when we have to be in the boardroom again, unless you all are willing to go, because the airport advisory board meets in this room, and because it'll be the kind of the final meeting with any last edits, and you guys need to sign, and I'm gonna need to be able to run to a printer and everything. How would you all feel about going back to the Moffett room, was where we met one time in December?
Or we could go down to the industrial room.
No, we can't broadcast from there, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm okay with upstairs because it'll be easier to pass around the papers and do the final review and all that.
Do we have to have a public comment?
Very warm.
No.
So we just,
The only time is, I didn't realize, but the only time we really need to have public comment is next week's meeting.
Right.
We never had to have it before.
So,
so.
Well,
is anybody not gonna be able to make the 20th?
No, I think it's good, right?
There was someone, right?
No,
No.
it was when it was gonna be the following week.
That's right. 27th would, Chelsea, you would have been out for 27th.
Oh, yeah, and I was gonna maybe be out next week, but I moved stuff.
I will be out next week.
Yeah, for the public hearing.
But
You said
everybody's
that.
here the 20th.
So, yeah, cause yeah, that, we need everyone here to sign.
Yeah, which I will.
Yes.
Okay.
And next week's
My daughter's
meeting
birthday.
is in
I'm not
the,
changing my vacation plans.
Next week is in the boardroom, right?
Right, next week we'll be in the boardroom.
Discussing anything, or is it just public comment and end early?
Well, it depends how many people have public comment.
I mean, technically, it's just a public hearing, if you all want to add more after, but after you close the public hearing is over.
Yeah. So, I mean,
So-
so next week was not one of the weeks we had to be over there. Can we like end public hearing and then move over here for an actual meeting afterwards if we have time?
Hassle for Gabby.
That's
It
true,
is a
yeah.
hassle for Gabby. I mean, we can just stay, there is, so typically, the way the script is reading, you will introduce the public hearing. I will report and show the required public notice, apparently.
Gotta meet that.
And then we'll go through public comment, whether online or in person, of 3 minutes, and then you'll ask if there's anybody else, and then you close the public comment, and then you all can talk amongst yourself on any of the comments that were raised.
So you don't need to go
I don't-
through anything, you just, a normal public comment
We
session
accept
like
their,
that?
we listen to their public comments and then,
Yep, it's just quite a bit, it's just more formal.
Yeah, but being a hearing, I wasn't sure, I was thinking we'd have to go through the charter, but we don't, that's great.
Is this different?
I don't combine them.
So as trustees, we would have a round of questions for the presenter, but there is no
There's
presenter.
no presenter,
So then we would have deliberations, and that's what you're talking about, this is just deliberations, either on comments or not. Or on the content that we've marked for the hearing, which is the entire charter, so we could do any meeting topics at that point,
so
And
once
then-
we formally close the public hearing section,
no more comments.
we're done and then
for
we would
that,
just,
from the public, but you all can.
but then we can talk.
Make sure you put that on the website, highlight it with asterisks. This is
Even
your
like-
last chance, people.
Like the public comment submission form will be closed after we close our public hearing.
No, I didn't think so, is it?
Well, I mean, they can keep giving you guys public comment that way, this is just a public hearing.
Right.
I mean, you can still get,
Cause we have
The
two more.
20th is the last, yeah, you
on
still
the
have the
20th,
14th.
we'll probably
or-
close it after the 20th,
13th.
cause you guys will have signed your charter.
Yeah, but you have the 13th still. that
Yeah,
you
we
can
have
do
the
public
13th
comment.
as a full meeting that we can still accept and discuss public comment, and then the 20th
I think
before
we
we
should,
sign.
yeah, but I'm thinking, do we want public comment on the 20th? I
I-
think it's getting really late.
Yeah, I would say,
No, absolutely.
I would say we close the form on the 19th.
Okay.
So everything is finalized, and then if we got anything consequential before then, we can discuss it early on the 20th. We can run and print the new charter if we had any changes from it, and then go sign it.
But if people show up on the 20th, they still can show up.
They can watch, right?
Right.
Well, no, we don't have to even put a public comment
Open
section
meetings,
on.
don't-
But they can
No,
be
but they
in
can
the
still
room.
show
Watch, yeah,
They'd
they
be
can
here.
watch, but we don't have to put a
Right,
public
exactly.
comment live.
Okay.
Time for bed.
Hillary did confirm she will be here at the next, in person at the next 3 meetings.
The next 3?
Right, Hillary?
I can be at any of the next several meetings that you need me at. I mean, I'll definitely be at the 6th, because I think you definitely want,
So the
I think
13th
you
is,
definitely want me there. So let
yes,
me know
yes,
that.
yes, we want you
And
there
then
on the
the
6th.
20th,
And probably the 20th.
but I wasn't sure you were gonna meet the 13th.
Well, the 13th is when we'd be incorporating all of our final comments.
Changes from
Yeah.
the public.
I'd say the 13th is pretty important.
I think
The
we
13th
would
is more
want,
important than the 20th.
yeah,
Okay.
I would agree that 13th is probably more important than 20th, because hopefully everything's finalized by the 20th.
But if,
Gotcha.
There may be
but if
some
not,
last
she
minute
needs
things
to
that come
be
out.
here, she needs to be here on the 20th.
Okay, so,
Can we just
I
plan
think so.
like all 3 of them?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
if you can plan for all 3, Hillary, that would be great.
I think having her not here the 20th will guarantee something will come up.
Yes.
That's how it works.
It's Murphy's Law, always have, so.
And if, just throwing this out there, if you all would like to get here early, or something, or maybe don't, not even early, maybe I can pick up sandwiches and stuff for the 20th. Which is like to have something a little bit more substantial than a snack.
Cheetos are great.
I'll still get you some Cheetos.
And again, don't forget, I did send out Evite for the party, so if you could, let me know if you can make it.
I would eat sandwiches if you brought them.
I would
Never
really
say
use
no
that.
to food.
You said you had.
Anybody-
I think.
Anybody have
think it's
anything
you hadn't
other,
read it
I'll
yet.
get
Do you want me to
vegetarian
resend
for
it to
you,
you?
Yeah,
of course.
No
maybe that's what I should do.
I don't think
No
I'm
pork.
forgetting that.
No what?
Okay.
No pork.
Except eggplant.
I think that.
Oh, I just had some wonderful eggplant parmesan tonight. My husband made it for
I
me.
am so hungry right now.
Half of us don't have time to eat before we.
Yeah, me either.
Okay, I think we're done. I'll
Okay.
adjourn for today.
Please let me go
We're all
eat.
talking
Oh.
menus.